Here we go. I just pressed it.
Oh,
all right, we are
so
live.
exciting. Oh, hi.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us here on the YouTube, the place where we record our shows and then it gets edited down to a slick audio format. But here you get the whole story of what really happened the day of the recording. So that's a bit of an extra sharing that no one cares about. Brian, how you doing? People can see also we have another person in the chat here, Derek, who's hidden for now, but won't be hidden for too long. But Brian, how you doing?
Yeah, doing just fine. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna save my words for the actual show.
Sure.
I hope they come easier then. Has it been a long time since I've done a show? Has
I
it been
guess,
like a
yeah, the
month?
last one I did was Shams. That was awesome. Oh, yeah, let's mention that on the
Maybe I'm
recording about that awesome
rusty.
episode with Shams.
Maybe. Oh, I didn't consider that I might be rusty.
Well, you'll do it. I mean, I'll edit. Oh, Andrea's here, the keeper of the. We should have an official title: the keeper of the rankings, the rankings coordinator, the rankings. What's a word that starts with R? Anyways, exercise for the listener. Okay, Brian, shall we do this?
Yeah, I think we shall.
Okay.
Oh, if you want to get my fan, it's running right now.
Oh, okay. Let's be silent for a sec. Okay. Okay. Okay, Dina's just messaging me now. I'm going to respond to. I was just. Sorry, everybody. Just a quick second. My baby's not asleep. It's really annoying.
Uh-oh. Do you have
We
to
really
feel
need to...
guilty?
Well, I'm just messaging to be like.
So when I was when the little one was littler and I was at work, Josie would sometimes like text me with like how bad a nap is going. And it like spiked my stress levels at work like so much.
No, I know. I mean,
I don't think I've ever told her this. Because like she was really stressed. So like it's only fair that I wear some of that. But it was yeah.
No, I'm feeling it right now. But hopefully I could channel it.
Channel
it into a good show.
Stress.
Into a good show. All right. Anyways. All right, I'll just tell her. All right. Okay, let's just go. All right. Yeah, yes. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who I think this year are finally going to nail it. We're going to get all of the KKUPFL rules perfect. Like everyone's going to love everything. We're not going to have any complaints. I'm your host, Elon Dabrowski, and with me to break down all of your amazing suggestions of how to make the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League the best league it can be is my very good friend, the Fantasy Hockey Robot, a man who has taken a bit of a break. So you're hearing his voice for the first time in around a month? It's Brian Com. Brian, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. You're making me sound lazy. It's been about a month since he's been on the mic. Hey, I've been here. I've been working hard. And like maybe not like the fantasy. Actually, we've been working a lot behind the scenes for getting the next season of KKUPFL ready, gathering feedback. You'll see the fruits of my labor. I combed through all the exit surveys that we received after KKUPFL season 8 ended to get all the feedback so we can figure out how to make KKUPFL season 9 better than ever. More on that later. And we're actually going to do it later because I think this is attempt number 3, Elon, where we've planned to do the KKUPFL feedback episode, and then something else has like taken over, or like some shiny new thing has distracted us. But this is it. We're going at it. I know you want to talk some general.
I've got some shiny things. I got some shiny things though that I just want to bring up first.
We're gonna keep it locked though. There's no way we're gonna take 15 minutes of content and turn it into 2 hours like we did on our Patreon cast, which is available, by the way, for anyone who wants like just is bored. I don't know. It was a good one. Elon, actually, here's your teaser. We were thinking of releasing it publicly. And I asked Elon after, like, are we going to release it publicly? And Elon's answer was, I think I said too much. So if you want to know what Elon has said, it's $1. It's literally $1 for all the benefits of being a patron, including our Discord community and access to register for the KKUPFL, which is going to be open when the Stanley Cup is awarded. That's our goal. So I think we're on that. We're on track for that timeline. Come join us. It's fun. KeepingKarlsson.com/patron.
Yeah, definitely. It's a fun time in the patron community. Big thanks to Andrea, who's been running our patron rankings, a daily vote on our Discord server where we're like coming up with a ranking today. Timo Meyer went, I believe. I voted for Kyle Connor. Brian, what do you think? Am I being too like, I'm just like, feel like Connor, I know he had a bit of a down year last year, but I kind of like someone who's, done it before, like 49 goal year. Also, like not as many question marks. Like Meyer, last year kind of slowed down with New Jersey, but he'll probably be fine. But that's my vote. Also, some people are voting for Tim Stützle now, who I feel like also has like crazy upside. But I don't know. I'm sticking with Connor. We'll see. But anyway, thanks, Andrea, for running that.
Are you actually asking me? Like, do you
Sure.
want an answer?
I mean, yeah, who would you take? Connor, Meyer, or Stützle?
Well, Timo Meyer, like we don't know where he's going to go, right? So
He's RFA. Let's assume New Jersey for now.
If we assume New Jersey, honestly, I think he saves the like new team red flag because he's already been there. At least, like it's like a yellow flag instead of a red flag for Meyer if he just hangs out in New Jersey. And I think that's I think I'd take Timo Meyer. I would. I think he was snake bitten in New Jersey as we've gone on. And Kyle Connor, like things got really weird in Winnipeg towards the end of the season. And I feel like he was given some offensive leeway at the start of the year by Rick Bowness. And when everything went to hell, basically for the Jets, and Rick Bowness just like ripped the team at the end of the year saying like, we did not deserve any better than what we got. We suck. It's time to like tear it down and build it up again. To me, that it's concerning that might be a signal that what we feared would happen at the start of last season, which was Kyle Connor, not a strong defensive player to say the least, might not be given such free reign offensively. Maybe Rick Bowness has the ammo he needs to actually follow through with that now.
Yes, we'll see. I mean, Winnipeg's such a crazy situation. Like people are talking about how like Scheifele, Dubois, Hellebuck, they all want trades. So
a lot up in the air. And then Stützle, I mean, honestly, I think Stützle deserves to be right up with them too. I think I'd still lean Meyer. But I guess I also want to see, like, there's more pieces. You have to vote today. I think I'd go Meyer, but I might take Stützle.
Meyer already went. Now it's like Stützle versus Connor.
I think I might take Stützle over Connor.
Okay, I could see it. I mean,
but maybe I'm being a little like he's amazing. Like the more you watch Tim Stützle, the more you believe in Tim Stützle.
I saw a stat recently. It was like some tweet that I think we retweeted at Game Day Stats. It was like the top like people who have scored like an over 90-point pace like before the age of 21, like Stützle just did. It was like Gretzky, Lemieux, like four like all like Hall of Famers, and then Stützle, like not even Hall of Famers, like legends, and Stützle. So he's right up there. But okay, Brian. That's one thing I want to say. Shams, by the way, thanks to Shams for the great previous episode where he stood in for you and did it. We had such a fun chat. If you didn't listen to that one, Shams and I came up with a bunch of players where we just were like, don't forget about this person. You may, in all the fervor of the playoffs, you may have forgotten like some things that happened with these players during the regular season that you're going to want to remember for next year's draft. So that was a really fun episode. We went back and forth bringing up some fun guys, so definitely check that one out. But I think, Brian, with that, let's get into our shiny objects before we get to the couple feedback, because I know we have a lot to get to. Keeping Karlsson proudly presented by DobberHockey.com. But okay, we still are in the NHL playoffs, so probably we should at least mention what's going on there. Obviously everyone knows Vegas is up 3-1. Florida really almost came back again yesterday, but it wasn't meant to be for the comeback Cats. I guess I wanted to give a quick shout out. The Keeping Karlsson playoff pool is still going. We're down to our final 8. The way it worked is it was 4 leagues of 2, but so they drafted just against each other in head-to-heads, but now it's just gonna be whoever gets the most points is gonna win the whole damn show. And currently, shout out to Acer, who has 34 points. Second place is Uncle Kachuk with 30. So it looks like Acer, if the game ends, if the series ends after the next game, it's going to be tough for someone to catch up to him. I know he's got Duclair, though, who's injured, and Matthew Kachuk, who's injured potentially. We'll see if Kachuk is able to make it to the next game. So that'll be exciting. But yeah, it'll be fun to follow that. And also we haven't announced this yet, but we're going to be doing a trivia show that one of our patrons, Andy, is organizing. We're going to be collecting questions from the patrons. We've already posted in the Discord. So if you're a patron, please go to the Discord and submit questions for the trivia show. It's going to be me versus Ryan, the KKUPFL Ultimate Champion, versus hopefully whoever wins the KKPP. So Acer, if you win, we're going to be reaching out to you, see if you want to come on a podcast to test your mettle once again against a KKUPFL Ultimate Champ and myself and a bozo, and see how you can do. So Anyways, that's what's going on there. Brian, about the playoffs, two players I wanted to ask you about, okay? Because, we always like to talk about players who are maybe changing our perspectives of them, and how much we should like believe in what we're seeing in the playoffs in terms of for fantasy next year. I wanted to ask about Aiden Hill. Like, this is crazy. And I know I asked you about him before, like maybe after the second round or whatever. But at this point, Hill is having like a historic playoffs. He's putting up numbers. I saw another tweet. It was like numbers like better save percentage than like any goalie who's ever played like over a certain number of games in the playoffs. He has a 934 save percentage in his 15 games now. A huge reason why Vegas is one win away. This is a guy who wasn't even like their goalie like to start the playoffs, right? It was Brossois, and like if Logan Thompson was back, I'm sure Hill would have been like the third stringer. Like, it's incredible. He was someone that we like had pretty much given up on when he was on Arizona and San Jose. I know you were like very big, like, I'm kind of over Aiden Hill, but I guess with goalies, maybe it takes him a little while. And like, he's only 27 years old, which is around like prime time for some goalie breakouts. So the next craziest thing is Hill is a UFA. He could go anywhere. He's going to hurt some team. I saw a lot of tweets saying like some team is really like Hill is forcing some team to really overpay him this summer. Cause like if he, after this playoff performance, you could see him getting like a 6-year, $5 million, like similar to like what Jack Campbell got last year or like Darcy Kemper. What do you think? Like, would you like, we've been joking with the Sens, right? Like if the Sens spend some money in term on Aiden Hill, will you be like, oh, you guys blew it? Or will you be excited about it?
I'd be more the former, I think. I don't think you spend, like, to me, Aiden Hill is looking like somebody who a team might want to try the same way that Toronto had Samsonov and Murray, right? It's like, we're going to have two of these guys. We're going to fit them both into our cap situation. It makes sense at this particular moment. And we'll see if one steps up and shows that they can be a starting goalie. We'll go with it. I that's the best I would hope for.
I guarantee to you that Aiden Hill is going to be commanding more than 1.8 mil year that Samsonov got after this like historic playoffs he's putting together, taking a team on his back.
I mean, if you look at the Matt Murray example, Matt Murray came out of his cup run with a $6.25 million contract, right, for 4 years, which we're seeing how that ended. Or how that ends. To be
fair, he was like a high pedigree prospect. I think people were, Hill is like really out of nowhere.
And right. And there was no previous track record for Matt Murray either, right? Like he showed up in the playoffs basically for the first time in his career, like similar to like Jordan Binnington, right? I'm trying to find like some other analogs for what
Cam
Aiden
Ward.
Hill. Yeah. And like, we're naming a pretty like underwhelming group of goalies, right? Like they all had their highs.
I got one. Didn't Patrick Waugh have his first NHL action in the playoffs?
Is Aiden Hill the next Patrick Waugh?
Could be a little bit older.
I think Patrick Waugh was younger at the time and might have not had a chance to prove himself over 4 seasons the way Aiden Hill has. That said, I have always been quite hard on Aiden Hill. He's been great in these playoffs. All right. He's 18 save points above his expected Fenwick save percentage at even strength, which is impressive. And it marks really the only time in his career he's ever played above his expected Fenwick save percentage at even strength. He's been under every year in his career except 3 out of 5. And I'm being a little dramatic about the way I'm framing this. But the reason I said maybe I've been a little hard on Aiden Hill is because I have been focused. He's looked like a borderline backup in the NHL from what we've seen. But I am looking at his numbers, and over the last 2 seasons, 64% quality starts for Vegas. And I'm just using regular season numbers here. Which is even more impressive, right? Because his postseason has been fantastic, but 64% quality starts for Vegas this year, 55% quality starts for San Jose last year. It's just that he had like 4 really bad starts out of 25, and the same thing with Vegas too, 4 really bad starts out of 27. So that's like it's not terrible, but it's a few more really bad starts than you'd prefer to see. But the recent history for Aiden Hill is decent. So there is something to, hey, maybe this guy could be something. He's not someone I want to hitch my wagon to. And there's actually I don't know if you've ever heard, there's a writer, Elon, named Dan Gardner. Have you heard of him? He used to write for the Ottawa Citizen.
I feel like we talked about him on the show like a million years ago.
It's very possible because he writes books about trying to predict the future based on what's happened in the past and not falling victim to bias. Like his first book was called Super Forecasting, I think.
You know what? I think I talked about him actually not on this podcast, but on my previous
On the
podcast that I
reality
used to
check?
do.
Yeah, probably. So he's just released a new book called How Big Things Get Done. Anyway, I don't know why I'm stumping for him. So he's doing some publicity, whatever. And but he was tweeting, I think it was just earlier today, saying, about the Stanley Cup finals, and basically saying, if he was talking about the Panthers and basically saying, hey, look, if they've had a highly improbable streak of good luck, they're at risk of that luck running out, right? Like, which is, so if you don't see the run coming, it's like, oh my gosh, look at them now. Like we didn't see how good they could be. It's like, well, yeah, but the clock could turn midnight in any second. And I sort of transpose that onto Adin Hill too. So like I said, not someone I want to really, I don't know if Jim Carrey Elon is like another potential example, although I think he did it for a full season.
Well, yeah, he won a Calder Trophy.
Yeah,
anyway,
and Andrew Rigg, like we've seen this, and
yeah.
I'm just
and also like we know that like we suck at predicting goalies because everyone sucks at predicting goalies.
Anything
so, like,
could happen. The bigger
it's definitely
sample,
possible that like a team will pay big for him and it'll like work out amazingly, and he'll like be like a core goalie for a team for the next like 5 years. It's definitely he's showing he has the skills. It's just with goalies, it could be so like Bobrovsky even like was amazing for the first 3 rounds, and then really kind of stunk up the joint for the first few games. So who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. One more player I want to throw at you, Brian, from the playoffs. Jonathan Marchessault is like on an insane run, 9-game point streak now, 14 points in his last 9 games, bringing him to a total of 24 points in 21 games in these playoffs. Marchessault just exploding. This is like a 90+ point pace if this playoffs was for a full regular season. And this playoffs is like after like a pretty meh regular season from Marchessault, only a 62-point pace, which is his lowest in a few years. He scored 28 goals in 76 games, which is good. Obviously you want him on your fantasy team, but he wasn't like as good as the previous year when he had an over 70-point pace. So, I think without these playoffs, I think Marchessault would have fallen in drafts. But now after these playoffs, if you're just like taking your brain from where you were at the start of the season when you were drafting, are you now like higher on Marchessault than you were a year ago? Lower or the same after like a less impressive regular season, but then an incredibly explosive playoffs?
Yeah, you know what I'm gonna say here. I'm gonna go with the same. His points participation is up in the playoffs at 5-on-5, but that's really not it's not up that much. But his points per 60 rates have doubled at 5-on-5, and my best sense. Nearly doubled, I should say. And my best sense of why that is because his shooting percentage has doubled too. So Marchessault is taking the same number of shots per 60 as usual. It looks like he is creating a smidge more expected goals per 60 minutes, but like not a ton more. And at the same time, actually, I think that's the whole story. I don't need to add too much more to that. So, I've always liked Jonathan Marchessault until I heard that story about him on our most recent Patreon cast.
Yeah. Another spoiler not spoiler, but tease for the Patreon cast. Hear a story about Marchessault, which isn't the most, pleasant about him.
Yeah. So I'm not I still think like he's been so consistently. I thought he had potential to be more than the 65 point player that he's been since, he had the 80-point season in his first year in Vegas when like James Neal and Eric Holla, everyone was going off. But since then, he's really settled into sort of one sort of category. And I thought when he was a 60-point guy for a couple seasons, I'm like, he's got potential for like 70+. And he did that last season, but I think that might be the high water mark. So yeah, give me still 65 points for Marchessault.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. He is on a new line with Barbashev and Eichel. Like Barbashev was acquired at the deadline. Barbashev also a pending UFA, just like Adin Hill. So we'll see if Marchessault and Eichel both reach out to the Vegas GM and like, hey, get us Barbashev back. We like him. It's going very well, especially if they win a cup. It'll be hard not to. And he'll be another guy that might get overpaid, though. He is great in fantasy if you're in a league that counts hits. If Barbashev is going to keep up these points and also hit a lot, you got your next, Tom Wilson. Potentially next year if he comes back to Vegas, but we'll talk about him when he gets signed. Brian, one more shiny object, I guess a couple more, but both on the same team at least. A couple big moves by the Columbus Blue Jackets this past week, shoring up their defense. Who do they think they are? The Leafs at the last trade deadline here. They made a trade first of all to get Ivan Provorov, who this was a three-way deal with both LA and Philly. And I guess the big pieces here, really the only fantasy relevant piece is probably Provorov, who goes to Columbus. I guess there is a formerly fantasy relevant piece in Cal Peterson, who has been moved. This is like a cap dump from LA, sending Cal Peterson over to Philly. And we'll see if Peterson could potentially, there has been all these rumors about Carter Hart, like potentially being on the trade block. So we'll see. Like, I guess if Hart stays in Philly, then you have Hart, Peterson, and I guess Sam Ersson fighting for the three goals. Well, Hart won't be fighting for the spot, but I guess Ersson and Cal Peterson. Peterson again has that $5 million contract still for a couple more years. I dumped him myself in my dynasty league this past year. I had to pay to get someone to take him. Actually, I think I traded Peterson and Klingberg. I gave them both like for free, basically, to Victor, I believe. So we'll see if one day that bites me in the butt or not. But I was happy to get out of that Cal Peterson contract. So fantasy impacts here. Oh, and then we have Kevin Connaughton and Hayden Hodgson going to LA, and then some picks going around. But yeah, Provorov, I guess, is the big name. He used to be, he's kind of like, to me, like Ryan Pulak, right? Like at one point it looked like he was going to be like a big deal in fantasy, like multi-category, top power play potential. Then he sort of settled into like not that much power play, still good periffs, some points. I guess Provorov gets a few more points than Pulak at this point. But yeah, definitely he's slowed down a lot in Philly. Do you think that now coming to Columbus, it's kind of the same? He's still going to be behind. Like, he's not going to get top power play. He's got Zach Werenski ahead of him. Of course, Zach Werenski's coming off this big injury. So there is the potential that if Werenski's misses time again, maybe Provorov's there, or maybe it's, I guess I'll just bring up the other guy in Damon Severson, who just got traded and signed to a big 8-year, like $6.25 million. Like, I didn't realize that Damon Severson was that amazing to get this. I guess Gavrikov also just got a big contract from LA. Also, like one of these, like when you play fantasy, you don't realize, oh, these I guess are great players for other reasons aside from fantasy. That's why they're getting these huge contracts. But yes, you've got Severson, Provorov coming into Columbus to join Werenski, to join, I guess, Juracek is their big prospect-y guy who they drafted a couple of years ago, joining our friend Blankenberg, Norm's cousin. But yeah, how do you see things shaking out? Is there any fantasy relevance now on the defense in Columbus aside from Zach Werenski? Is there anyone you would draft in your Cupful League?
No, I don't think so. I think, Provorov was fringe before, and I think he'll be as fringe before. Like, I don't think this makes him any more or less appealing. I know anyone who's had Provorov on their roster for any length of time has sworn him off for the last few years. He has not made a lot of fantasy managers or just people happy.
Right, of course.
Because there was the whole ugly thing where he refused to use his faith as an excuse to not be inclusive and support people for who they are.
Yeah, pulled a James Reimer. And a few other people have done it.
Was he before James Reimer?
Yeah, I think Provorov was one of the first.
Provorov was a trailblazer in guys being jerks. So I don't see anything to really love about Provorov. He's actually last year in Philly, and you can't read too much into a single year. But he sunk the offense. When he was on the ice, Philly's offense generated almost 10% fewer expected goals per 60 minutes while Provorov was on the ice at 5-on-5. So that's never a good way to, make your living. And then the defensive impact was average, maybe. He hasn't always been this tragic offensively, so I think maybe something wasn't working in John Tortorella's system or whatever. But still, it's been a long time since Provorov has been able to really contribute above. He's always been at least a marginal drag on his team's offense at 5-on-5, and a defense. Well, he can be a drag on that too. He, at the start of his career, he was not. And then something seems to have happened. And even though he's been a top pair player, maybe his minutes, he's just not up to playing against other teams' top pair, top lines. And I wonder if that has something to do with it. But yeah, I don't see Provorov as a fantasy relevant player at all. Maybe he'll have some spurts of relevance Adam Boqvist did and Vladislav Gavrikov did, and all these random guys, Andrew Peak, these random Columbus players who we churned on the waiver wire as they had their moments of glory. Damon Severson is actually sort of the opposite, where last year, Elon, I didn't realize this until the trade happened, but Severson, when he was on the ice, New Jersey's offense generated a 17% increase and expected goals per 60 minutes. That's huge. Like usually a defenseman does not move the needle. Like any impact over like 3 or 4% is notable. And so this is 70. This is one of the highest numbers I've ever seen. And I'm looking, by the way, at hockeyviz.com's isolated impacts, which I find a good way just to get a sense of a player's isolated impact when they're on the ice. There's beautiful little charts here too on finishing and setting. So Severson's offense has been strong now for a few seasons. His defense is not a liability. He holds pretty steady, if not is a slight boon. And I think he gets I think he'll probably be in the same situation in New Jersey where he could get some points on some secondary scoring, which means that every now and then he'll feel rosterable. But I think he'll be really rosterable if ever Zach Werenski gets injured again. They play like their different handednesses, so it doesn't necessarily mean that Severson will be replacing Werenski, but I know how you feel about reading too much into handedness, Elon. So yeah, Severson's value, I think, in Columbus will be very similar. Like neither of these guys, I think it's the same. Severson's value will be the same in Columbus, where unless Werenski is injured or falls out of favor, I don't think there's going to be enough opportunities for him to be consistently productive. But he seems he seems good though. Like the contract, yeah, big, eye-popping, maybe a year or two too many, but it could just be a reasonable long-term investment for Columbus.
Yeah, definitely. Though, if you're in a dynasty league, you probably don't want to be holding on to like a cap dynasty league. You don't want to be holding on to Severson, and the 8 years is probably like more valuable. Like you're saying, maybe a good like impact overall, but we're still probably looking at like a 30-point guy. So you probably don't want to get locked in on an 8 year. I have Severson actually, and I won't for long. I posted in my league like, so who wants to give me a bag of pucks for Severson after that contract got signed? And nothing came back, which I'm not surprised about. So Brian, okay, if you had to pick one, Severson last year had a 32-point pace, though the year before had 47. Remember when he took over that top power play when Hamilton was injured? Meanwhile, Provorov has steadily been declining from 43, 38, 32, and then 27-point paces in his last 4 years. Who's getting more points next year, Provorov or Severson? Sounds like you're thinking Severson.
Yeah,
I can see it being close. Like I don't think it's. I feel like it's really a coin flip to me. Yeah.
I mean, yes. Well, okay. So you think it's 50-50? Like you don't even think Severson has an edge? Like, yeah, it could be like a 2 or 3 point spread for sure.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's really hard to say like who's the one who actually gets the power play if Werenski gets injured. But maybe it's like a silly debate to have. And obviously we'll all lose our minds about it if it turns out that Werenski's going to miss time. But of course, at the same time, maybe just Werenski will be fine and it'll be a very exciting year for him and Columbus, who look like they are done with their rebuild and they're ready to go for it. They're going to get that 3rd overall pick in the draft, get another key center probably because they really need one. And then we'll see how long it takes for them to be off to the races. But okay, Brian, with that, we're done with the shiny objects. I have nothing else for you. So I think we can take a break and then we'll be back to talk a couple feedback for as long as you want. Okay, I'm not going to distract you with anything else except a fun special guest, but that's going to be also to talk about a couple feedbacks. We're going to get to our special guest and all the great feedback from the patrons in just a sec. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. All right, we are back, Brian, and I'm super stoked to get into it. You've done a ton of work, like you said, compiling all the amazing feedback that our patrons. We had over 600 people playing the couple last year. For those who don't know, I'll give the quick overview since you'll be doing most of the talking here. So I'll just blab for a bit now. Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League. We've been running this baby for 8 years now. It's one of these leagues where we actually have a whole bunch of different divisions. It's not like 600 people all playing against each other, right? We have divisions of 14 teams and we have different tiers. We started way back when with everyone was even. And then based on your placement, we started splitting people up into tiers. And then as you do well, you move up. As you lose, you move down. We have a ton of tiers at this point. This past season, we had 8 tiers. We're going to talk about some feedback we got about maybe changing things. But the way it worked this year is like if you were in the bottom tier and you won, you climbed up like 3, like all at once. So it's not like impossible to climb, even if you start on a low tier currently. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of the league. It's a head-to-head points league. We have a fast track system where if you have a lot of points, you can climb up, extra fast. And I mean, Brian's gonna get back into the feedback, and through that, you'll be able to also like learn a bit more about the league if you've never heard about it before. But one key thing I'll say is the couple is a league that's open to everybody. Anyone can play the couple. All you need to do is be a patron of Keeping Karlsson. You support the show, which is a nice thing to do. Don't think of it as like an entry fee. Like, I don't know. Now I'm being like a salesperson here. But, it's like we appreciate the support people give us, and we give, perks of like you could join we basically have like a $5. Like some people on Patreon have like a million different tiers. Like if you give $10, you get this. But then if you give $15, you get this. And 20, you're a super supporter and you get it. But we have like one tier, $5 a month. US, okay, and we give you access to every perk we could think of. So access to the Discord, playing in the cupful, like live shows. I feel like there's other things that we have in there that I can't remember off the top of my head. But Brian, so that's the cupful. Anyone can play if you're a patron. Come September, which will be the deadline. We're starting, like Brian said, registration is starting soon. And yeah, with that, we just played our 8th season, and we got a ton of feedback because every year we like tweak the rules, try to just make it the perfect league. And it seems like some people don't think it was the most perfect that it could be. They had fun last year, but we have some suggestions. Brian's gonna go through it, and you and we're just gonna talk it through live. We're not gonna make any final decisions today. We're gonna take it back. Talk also to Kevin, our couple coordinator, who's done an amazing job getting us set up for registration to open soon. But Brian, I'm really excited to hear what people thought and to give you my somewhat off the cuff. I've looked at them, but I haven't I wanted to save most of my thoughts and thinking about it to live, so it'll be really fun to talk it through.
Yeah. Okay. And Elon, you said that there are some folks who, oh shoot, sorry. Actually,
edit
I
point.
I remember there's something I wanted to do, but I'm not gonna be able to get it together. So I will just do it after. Okay. All right. Yeah. And Elon, I know you said we don't have it perfect yet. We had some feedback, but a lot of the feedback was also it's perfect, don't touch it, which is very nice. And we appreciate that.
And then they'll be mad as we start discussing all the things we're going to change.
So no one's going to be happy. Zero people are going to be happy after this. But I think everyone who plays is okay, you know what? I have some data here on how happy people are. First off, we had almost 200 responses to our survey out of 600 managers who played. Roughly a third of managers responded to our exit survey, which basically was there were a lot of questions like how competitive did you find the league, how fun did you find the league, how does it compare to your other leagues, and also inviting feedback and suggestions for how we can do better. And I love so much. Thank you to everyone who filled it out. Your passion for the league is so clear, and your kind words and testimonials that I've screenshotted and maybe we'll use if we ever can get an ad campaign together.
If we could ever learn how to do marketing.
We can market. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. But it really is motivating for us to keep doing what we do. And also one nice thing, and this is a thing for the cupful, and my preamble will be short, I promise. But people shared kind words for one another as well, in the community. People weren't just talking about the league, they were talking about the community around it. And that was really nice. The one thing I wanted to do on this episode, but I'm not prepared to do, somebody's going to win a t-shirt for filling out this survey, so I'm going to generate that. I'll announce it on our Discord server. We
have other prizes, by the way, right? All the cupful winners, there were a lot of them, right?
They're all getting shirts.
40 of them.
43
are getting custom one-of-a-kind cupful champion shirts for your division for your year.
It's exciting, and we're changing the shirts. It's going to be the first edition of the new design. Yeah, it's going to be big. I want to win again, so I have the one with our very first logo. I have the shirt with the Karlsson head, but I don't even have a shirt.
Oh man,
that's going to be the one sent out.
We won in the wrong years. We won in the years with the crappy shirts.
And we're such men of integrity that we are not going to send ourselves these shirts unless we earn them.
I have a potential prize also for the KKPP winner. We're gonna have a good prize for sure, but one prize that could be an option is my mom just gave me an extra large Ottawa Senators Pride t-shirt. I don't know, I guess she went to a Sens event and they only had extra large available, and so she got me one, which is a little big for me. So if the winner of the KKPP,
humble brag,
what? So, yeah, So if the winner of the KKPP wants an extra large Ottawa Senators Pride shirt, then that is up for grabs as one of the potential prizes. But okay, Brian. Anyways, all right, I'll stop.
Okay,
I'm not gonna say anything unless spoken to.
None of that mattered. I feel like we could.
We're talking about prizes.
Okay, yeah, but prizes are not at all on the agenda here.
Well, you said the person who filled the survey wins a prize.
All right. Let's not. Okay.
I'm ready to not say anything else. I'm ready. You lead the show.
All right. We had a lot of folks who were in their first few seasons in the KKUPFL fill out the survey. We had a lot of people who finished in first and second fill it out. A quarter of all respondents did. 10% though finished 13th and 14th of our respondents. So you especially rule for finishing in the basement of your division and still engaging with us to tell us how we could do it better. Because obviously that's the hardest spot to stay engaged from. We know it. It's human nature.
Yeah. There's no shame in coming 13th. I know from experience from this past season.
85% of respondents rated their KKUPFL experience 4 or 5 stars out of 5. 87% rated it on a scale of 1 to 5 fun, be 5 the funnest. 87 said 4 or 5 out of 5, and like very few were even below 3. But this is just how I split the numbers. Here's one: if you're thinking of joining and you're like, I'm crushing all my other leagues. 97% rated the competition as being 4 or 5 out of 5, and 100% of respondents said is the KKUPFL was as or more competitive versus their other leagues. If that appeals to you, if you're looking for a challenge, this is it. So here are the suggestions, Elon. Like that's just the overview. That's the meta. Mm-hmm. It's time for us to dig in on what people want us to change as the KKUPFL commissioners to consider changing for next season. And the first thing is scoring. Okay, I'm going to give you a few different angles, and then maybe you can zoom in on the one you want. So we had some feedback that goals seem too high compared to assists. Like if you have a goal scorer who takes 3 shots and gets a goal, that's more than someone who gets 2 assists, which doesn't seem balanced necessarily. So a goal scorer with 3 shots gets more than someone who doesn't take any shots but puts up 2 assists. Somebody else asked that, maybe if we incorporated more stats, the waiver wire could have more relevant options. We also had someone who some feedback saying add power play points. So way back when we started the league, I can't remember if we had it in our first year or not.
No, we started with categories league and we had it, but then when we switched to points, we didn't include power play points for a reason, which we'll explain shortly.
Yeah, well, the reason was that power play points, basically all the best players in the league, all your top performers are on the top power play. So it's basically making them maybe OP, overpowered, by having them accrue power play points as well. So we had a few people requesting that we add power play points. Someone suggested we get rid of shorthanded points because it's a useless stat, but it's fun. Like if that decides your week, that's crazy. I think you deserve it. They said it's useless, and you're right, it generally is. But I think when it's not, that's fun. I think especially like with the emergence of power kills in the NHL, like these like Sebastian Aho in Carolina, like these guys are killing penalties by being extremely aggressive offensively, and I think it's fun to add a little bit of value.
So can I respond to that, or did you want to say like more?
I'm going to throw
first?
One more thing, and then you can zero in on what you want to talk about. Okay. The one that I'm wanting to discuss the most is we had a suggestion to consider making defense more valuable by increasing what they're capable of. So we're on Yahoo, which means we can't give special weights to defense scoring. Like we can't make a defense point worth more than a forward point. But basically everyone was saying like, defense, people could like kind of boot or punt defensemen, take them or leave them, churn on the wire when you need games played, but they weren't mandatory enough to hold on your roster. So we had some people suggesting that we increase the banking category weights. So increase hits by a little bit, like 1/10 of a point, and increase blocks potentially too, although blocks equal a shot on goal right now, just to make defensemen more rosterable and more relevant and more necessary in team construction. So Elon, there you go. I would just summarize: goals too high compared to assists, add power play points, make defensemen more valuable. Go.
It's so interesting, right? Like, okay, so I'm gonna give you my initial thoughts, but obviously, like I said, we're gonna like talk about it more and discuss. But my initial thoughts are: so the reason we have goals as like 4.5 and assists is 3, and a shot is 0.5. So if you could think of it like a goal's worth 5, right? Because when you score a goal, you also get a shot. So it's like 5 versus 3, and I think we came up with that just like totally mathematically. But I always bring it up, and I always forget now. When we first designed the point system, we used this like website of like someone
Johnny
wrote,
Fantasy.
Johnny Fantasy wrote up the perfect like scoring system, and he like the argument was basically, generally when there's a goal, there's 2 assists, and so it just we're like 3/5 of the way there. Like an assist should be 3/5 of a goal because a goal is more rare, right? Like it's easier to get an assist than a goal because on any scoring play, there's only 1 goal, but up to 2 assists. And I think they did the math of like how many goals and how many assists there were in the whole league, and that's how it worked out to where it should be around like 2/3 of a goal should be an assist. That's why we have it like 3 to 5. Or whatever. I guess that math didn't make sense, but close enough. You know what I'm saying? 60%. So I don't think it's that bad. Like personally, like I think that goals should be worth more because they're more rare. And I mean, maybe the argument is shots should be worth as much, but I like shots. Like, I think our league does like have shots more powerful than some other leagues. But I think that it's kind of random sometimes when a shot goes in or not, right? So I think if a player's taking a lot of shots, it's generally like a really good performance. And so like we like to award that. So that's my thought about the goals. I'm not like, I'd be curious to hear the reason, more compelling reasons. But as far as the power play points and shorthanded points, I've had a kind of a change of heart. And I know we're going to talk about goalies soon. And if there was that one piece of feedback we got, Brian, maybe you'll remember who it was from, like saying like, we need to not only think of it as like, what's the most perfect, like fair thing. Like, I think I've always been thinking about, we need a scoring system that's like the most fair and reasonable and try to cut luck out as much as we can. And like only count things that like are reasonable and like fair and like are actual blah, blah, blah. Okay. So like power play points, we said, for example, it's like, we're already giving you a lot of points for your like top power play guys. You're just like making those guys even better. That said, it is kind of fun, right? When you see on the score sheet that the guy scored on a power play, like, my guy scored. Oh, sweet. It was on the power play. So I even get a bonus. So I wonder if there is something like just fun about it, that it would be worth considering adding something to power. That's just my thought. Like, I think there's a lot of reasons not to. I'm just saying like that would be a reason too. I think it's fun. And I think for shorthanded points.
Yeah.
I'll just respond to the shorthanded point thing quickly.
Okay.
Then you can respond to that too. The shorthanded points, I think that maybe the person that gave that feedback is right. That shorthanded point, like the fact that we're giving like an extra, we have 4.5 for a goal, 3 for an assist, and then you get a bonus 1 if it's shorthanded, which is like, we are making it useless because 1 is nothing compared to 4. Like maybe if it's like, maybe we should make shorthanded points just worth more so that when it's this rare thing that when it happens is like super cool. Why not make it worth 2? Like, why not make it actually like cool? I got a shorthanded point. It's actually worth something more than just like a measly little, but like, a matchup goes like 300 generally in a couple. Like if you have 300 in a week, that's like really good. Like maybe average, I don't know what the average is. I'm sure we have that data, but it's like 260, I'd imagine 270 maybe for like an average week. So what's 1? Come on. So maybe we should make shorthanded points worth more.
But one of the reasons it's not worth more, and this does go back to to someone who called us quants. So I'll get to their feedback later in the show. Like obsessed with taking all the luck out of it, which we can't. And maybe you're right. Maybe we move in this direction because like a shorthanded point is basically to me the equivalent of a shutout. Like because they're rare and they're random. So when you get one, it's like I don't know, rolling. Not snake eyes, a 7 in craps.
Sure.
That's not that rare. Whatever.
Snake eyes is rare.
Yeah,
so
I think like, do we want to make
cool
it like
experience.
winning the jackpot, or do we want to make it like right now? It's like we sort of like tip our hat. It's like, yep, good job.
That's what it is.
A shutout or a shorthanded point. Way to go! You
We're
count
flipping
that
a nickel to the person on the street that did like a nice gesture.
Yeah.
Here you go. Thanks.
And that's it. So maybe we make things a little crazier and we lean a little more into these random special events.
Yeah, make them worth more.
It's a thought.
Honestly, like I think shutouts also we don't give enough. It's like a goalie gets a shutout and we give like an extra couple. It's like shutouts are cool because I feel like with categories leagues, here's the difference between points leagues and categories leagues. I think when you're designing your league, you don't want to have categories that are rare in a categories league, right? Because then your league is going to be, your weekly match is going to be determined. Like there's the goals category, then there's like a shorthanded points category.
And
it's like
it should be like 1-0-0 most weeks.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll get a 1, and it's like that shouldn't really like be the same weight. But like when it's a rare thing in a points league, you do have the ability to make it like a fun thing, and you could just be like, yeah, shut out.
All right. So let me ask you, how mad will you be if you lose a week because of a shorthanded point? Like right now, I'm not mad because it is just 1 point, and it's like, well, if it was that close, that's cool. I didn't deserve it anyway.
Well, I'm not saying make it worth 10.
Well, what if we make it worth like a goal? Like, what if we make it worth 4.5 points?
Yeah, or maybe we could like split the difference. But I don't think I'd be too mad because also like it's not like game-winning goal, right? Game-winning goal is like such a random BS thing where it's like
BS.
it's like, oh, they scored the third goal of the game and the team won, or no, the team won like 6-2. And so like the third goal was a game winning goal. And then it's like, oh, I lost because like the other team happened to score a goal, which made this other goal that happened in the second period a game winning goal. Like shorthanded points are cool and hard. And it's like your player getting a shorthanded point is like a skillful, challenging thing to do. And it seems like it should be rewarded. Like maybe you're thinking like, how could you have known to draft this player? Like, you didn't draft Zach Hyman expecting a shorthanded point, and here you go, he got one. So it's like, oh, lucky SOB. But like, that's fun. It's fantasy. It's fun. It's like when cool things happen, it's fun. So I don't know. I'd be okay with it. Like to a certain extent, we can look at the number crunch.
Yeah, well, numbers. I mean, but it's a balance, right? Because if we're like, okay, we'll make it worth 2 points, and it's like, well, like that's still like 1%,
yeah,
or not even of the total weekly output of a team. So it's a hard balance to say we want to add more weight, but we don't want it to be silly.
Yeah, and then maybe we can tip our hat a little to power play and throw one. But I think this is like okay. Obviously, like all this stuff we would throw to the patrons. Like we're not going to make any decisions, and even
no
like, when
changes being made on the show.
And even when we do make a rule change decision, we then generally post it to Discord, and then we like see what people think. And like generally we're like, this is the plan, unless everyone's really upset about it and has good reasoning. But like there has been times when we've made a suggestion and then like we rolled it back when we got back the mountain of hate. I forget, like there was one that I remember.
It's not even like a mountain of hate. It's like a mountain of good arguments.
Well, yeah.
It's not like people are mad at us. Like we
once had an idea that I can't remember what it was. I'll remember it at some point, but it was like, it was a really crazy kooky idea. And then people were like, this is really dumb. And
there's been probably at least 2 occasions where people point like, but this is step 1, right? We talk about it big high level, then we'll go back, we'll get some feedback from the show, then we, as Elon said, like we announce it closer to the season, and then we listen.
And so I would like to hear feedback. Let's open a channel, I guess, after this episode of just like to discuss, or I guess we have the episode discussion channel.
And so we have the Cupful feedback channel.
And we have we'll designate a specific place to discuss the things. And I'd be curious to know what people think about maybe throwing a bit more for power play and shorthanded.
I'm going to put my power play point argument on the table just to start, and that's like for me, it's like the rich get richer. If we want there to be like upward mobility in the standings, I feel like you just need to be careful that you're not giving the most dominant players even more dominance.
Okay, and then if I could respond to the defense thing now. This could be a long show.
Oh my god.
I just think like if we make blocks worth more, we're not like making Cale Makar. Like I think some people are upset that like defense isn't like worth as much as forward, maybe, or like you like once you get past the super elite defensemen.
People are frustrated that defense aren't. You don't need to. We have 4 defense slots. I think people are upset. And again, this is just a slice of a slice, right? But I think people are upset that you don't have to, that you can roll with 1 or 2 defensemen. Well, you don't need to invest draft capital.
I guess what I'll say to that is like, first of all, if you could get, there is the concept of value over replacement, right? Like you have these 4 defense roster spots. If you leave a couple blank, you're going to have days, like especially on a busy night, right, where all your spots are filled and you have forwards on your bench. And yet you have like 2 open D spots. You're just getting fewer games. But we do have like 4 bench spots. So we do like kind of make that like not as punishing. So you could theoretically run with fewer D. But I just feel like if we make blocks worth more, we're also kind of making the high end D worth less, because now it'll be like there's not as big of a difference between Makar and like Gustav Forsling. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know if I just don't know if we want to just like make random D who block like Trevor Van Riemsdyk like worth a lot more, but it's worth considering. Like, it's an interesting idea. I wish there was just a way to do D points then. Like, it's too bad that we don't have that option, because maybe if we added like an extra 0.5 for a point when a defenseman gets it, that would do it. But I just don't know if like I would want to just like give random like banger D. Because I think actually our 0.5 for blocks is like kind of generous. Like I like grabbing these D with a decent floor of like, if there's a defenseman who could give you like a few blocks, and they still need to get some points to be worth rostering. But if you could get like a 30-point guy, like a Provorov actually is a good example, right? He was rostered in most couple leagues all season long, even though he put up a paltry 27-point pace. But I think his overall couple points per game was still, actually, I can look it up right now. I have it in front of me. It was like 3.11, which isn't great, but there were stretches where it was better. And I think for defense, like over 3 is something to at least look at. You want generally like over 3.5, I think, to be really good. I usually think like a forward, I want over 4, but I don't know. I just don't like the idea of boosting like Adam Larson and then like, relatively then Adam Fox is worth less,
Yeah, I think what it does is it takes streaming a little more out of the equation by making certain D-men a little more valuable. But you're right, it doesn't change the value much of the guys at the top, but it does catch up a lot of the guys who are fringe or at the bottom who are constant, like, I don't know, Colton Parayko.
Yeah.
For
But it
example,
does change the value of the guy at the top, just because now it's like, why should I spend a
because the
high
lower
pick?
guy is closer to them.
Yeah. Like, why should I draft Eric Karlsson and take that risk hoping for a 90-point season when I can get someone who like will still, even though Karlsson actually had that random season, remember when he almost led the league in blocks?
Of course I remember.
I'll never forget that.
We talked so much about it.
It was insane. He was the best.
Okay, so we're looking at so far, maybe up the shorthanded points, maybe a little power play point bonus.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the feedback is on all this stuff.
And then banger cats. Okay. Elon, goalies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big
I'm gonna this is the thing that got us that every year gets us the most feedback. Here's the comment, by the way. In short, that we've been referencing a couple times, where someone like calls us out on basically, being who we are and like making us reevaluate our whole stance in building the league. In short, I've never been in a league that wanted more, quote, certainty than this one, which goes to the whole devaluing of goalies. It still feels like I'm in a league of quants trying to gain the narrowest of edges in streaming plays. Please note my note in this, like a Discord thread or somewhere else in the survey. Thanks for reading this opus, an oldie but a goodie. And they basically said that it seems to me that this game setup just moves further and further away from art imitating life. And to me, that's a basic appeal of playing fantasy sports. When I asked earlier in the year about the devaluing of goalies, the response was that, quote, we didn't want drafting bad goalies to ruin an entire season. I don't get that. Every NHL team makes their bed with their goalie decisions. I don't know why it should be different here. You draft Vasilevsky in the first round and he puts up mediocre numbers. You should pay for that. And then, so that's like the headline. That's actually like pretty much the headline comment of the whole survey, like of KKUPFL season 8, I think, and what we have really in our minds as we plan for season 9. But we had a lot of comments basically saying make goalie points a little higher. Some people were saying we're make goalies a little less valuable, but many more were asking us. So in season 7, goalies were like a goalie stream was the obvious play. Every single time you had a streaming move, stream in a goalie, you'll get like a silly amount of points because the goals against penalty, but it was also negative. It wasn't high enough, but it was also easier to go into the negative, or sorry, the saves, the balance between saves and goals against penalty made it so that a goalie stream could really do well and a goalie could go into the negatives more easily when things didn't go well. But overall, the smart play was always to stream a goalie. They were a little overpowered. You had like, I don't know, Casey DeSmith with a 20-point night, I think was like the highlight of the season for some managers. And then last year we sort of took some of the heft away from goalies to avoid that. But people were basically just saying, well, like the reward wasn't good enough. Like, why would I draft a goalie? And Elon, you learned this the hard way in your auction draft. Why would I invest draft capital in goalie? Why would I hold a goalie on my roster all season when basically there are replacement level options just abound and any one of them could turn out to be more than that? So a lot of folks said goalies were too irrelevant and we should probably try and find a way to make them a little more important. Someone said wins should be worth at least as much as a random second assist, and make shutouts more impactful. So I had some people saying like they're about right. And I think we're as close to right on goalies as we've ever been before, Elon. But I think I'm with the group that we could probably add a little more heft, a little more power back to goalies. I think we might have swung the pendulum too far in the other direction. You're muted.
Damn, I was saying so many smart things. Okay. Yeah, I'll just quickly reiterate the argument for why we wanted goalies to not be worth as much. The reason why we are quants. The idea is that like goalies are so random in the NHL. Like I feel like it's so hard to predict which goalies are going to be good, which goalies are going to be bad. Last year going into the year, everyone, it was like a sure thing, that like Jacob Markstrom was like one of your top goalies. He ended up being like terrible. Like, it just seemed so random. And it's like, the idea is you want the better players to win. You don't want the person who happened to get lucky and draft Linus Ullmark. Like no one expected Ullmark to have this insane season. So should it really be that the person who just lucked into him and like with a 17th round pick turns out to now win the league because we have goalies worth so much that whoever gets the best goalie wins? Like I didn't want to I don't like the idea that all the strategizing and all the draft prep for your players and sort of overshadowed by who got lucked into the best goalie or lucked into the worst goalie, and totally killed their season. So that was the kind of the reason why we figured it was fine that goalies weren't worth that much. And goalies still were like on average points per game. Like the better goalies were better than the players. Once you get past like Connor McDavid and like in his craze like 9 points per game cupful, UC Saros is 6, which is like among the top. Like most goalies are around 4, 5, 6, much higher than the average skater. But yeah, maybe it wasn't worth as much because obviously the thing with goalies is they don't play every game. It's really hard to justify rostering one unless you're going to get like a ton of points from them. And there's fewer and fewer goalies that are even playing like every game, like so many teams are going to tandems. So yeah, that was our kind of reasoning. I like the idea because I think at first we didn't want to give wins a lot, right, Brian? We were like really big on like we want to see more about the goalie's performance, and wins are kind of more like not even up to the goalie. It's up to like the team and how many goals they score. So we wanted to really focus on a lot of points for saves and like negative points for goals against, and that will kind of determine the value of your goalie. And then we had like a little bit for wins. A win is only worth 2. And a shutout is worth another 2. But then we have like 0.3 for a save, which can add up quickly, right? 10 saves, you already got 3 points right there. Then yeah, negative 1.5 for a goal against. But maybe because the thing is, if we raise like saves, we're going to get to, again, one of these points, like you said, of Casey DeSmith getting 20 points in a night, or like if we like, raise saves, but then also like, increase the penalty for goal against, then people are going to get annoyed that they get like a -6 dropped on them when their goalie does really badly. So maybe just wins is the easiest pendulum, because we could just make wins worth more. We can make wins worth double, make it worth 4 points, let's say. And that's not going to lead to anyone having like an exponential, like a Casey DeSmith 20-point night. Like it'll just take 12-point really good game from Casey DeSmith and make it worth like 14, which maybe does over the course of the season have goalies rank. Because I think a lot of people just look at our like rankings of total points and they see that the first goalie listed is UC Saros at 69th overall. They're like, that doesn't seem right? The top goalie shouldn't be 69th ranked, even though, points per game, he was a lot higher, blah, blah, blah. So if we just like added a bit to wins, that like I could actually make that change right now. So okay, UC Saros at 69th. I'm going to go in this spreadsheet right now and change wins from 2 to, what do you want to make, to 3 or to 4? This is an experiment.
Try 4.
Let's try 4. Let's see. I'm going to change wins to 4. The magic of Google Sheets now is going to change all the point totals here. Now I'm going to resort. Yeah, all of a sudden now we have Hellebuck. So now Saros isn't even the top one, because obviously he was on Nashville, didn't make the playoffs. We have Hellebuck number 1. For goalies, he's 28th now. Actually, it's Hellebuck, Georgiev, and Saros are all like 28th, 29th, and 30th. So that's just like, brought all the goalies up, especially the ones on good teams. I don't love the idea of like, the goalies on good teams getting the benefit, and like it's more about now the team. But maybe it is the best way just for the game of playing fantasy hockey that we can like make goalies overall worth more. A goalie stream is worth it, but it can't go as crazy as we used to have it in the past, where if you had like a 30 save shutout or 35 save shutout, it was like an insane night, like better than like 4 goals, which maybe seemed like a bit much.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like you are, so one thing this doesn't do is it doesn't move the needle at all for like, I've always avoided wins, or at least I haven't necessarily avoided wins, but I've always been wary of wins because it's a team stat, right? And maybe the quant side of me is like, you should, when you get a goalie, you should be going for the best goalie. We want to measure the quality of the goalie you're getting and not the team they play for. But that's, I am feeling okay with, increasing the value of goalies on good teams. Especially, one thing that plays into all this too, Elon, is that there's so many tandems now, right? Like so many teams seem very happy to run a timeshare and like just alternate game in, game out. Like the, Varlamov Sorokin is now the norm versus, even just a few years ago when you still had your set number 1 and number 2 guys. And I think giving a little more value to those wins gives you a little more imperative to hold on to a guy if he's playing on a good team. It doesn't do anything for goalies on bad teams, of course.
Yeah, but you can still get your Vejmelka like random 45 saves, and that'll still be worth a lot. So, all right, so that's something we're going to throw out on the table. Maybe we could also add like 1 for a shutout. We currently have 2. Maybe we could like make goal wins 3 or 4, and then shutouts 3. And so, anyways, that's out there now for the patrons to discuss and let us know if they like the idea of increasing goalie wins. We could play with the spreadsheet and see how things change. Brian, let's take another break. And then when we come back, we have a special guest joining us because we had some feedback where some numbers needed to be crunched. And I know that we have John Newhold in the community who's like calls himself Microsoft Excel as his team name in the cupful, but we have someone that's competing, I guess, for like our Excel or our stats guru here in Derek. So I'll let you introduce. I'm teasing the first name, but we'll take a break. When we come back, Brian will introduce our special guest and talk about the great feedback that we've gotten from him with some good analysis to go along with it. So you're listening to Keeping Karlsson. We'll be back soon. All right, we are back for our cupful feedback episode of Keeping Karlsson. And Brian, you're the host, so why did I even talk? Over to you to introduce the guest. Tell us where we're going next.
Wow, I'm so compelled to keep listening after that ad break. We are so excited to have a special guest on the show, Derek, who first year cupful competitor in season 8 in tier 8 Nachbauer, and won it all in tier 8 Nachbauer. Derek, I think it was from the 5 or 6 spot. It was 12-9 record, right?
Yeah, I ended up just barely overtaking the first place team in total points right at the end of the season. Myself and Michael were kind of dueling it out for a while, but I had a little bit of rough luck in matchups, so I ended up seeded. I actually can't remember if it was fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
But then had good performance in the playoffs and a close finals matchup again against Michael, and happy with the result.
Yeah,
you're gonna get one of those custom fancy T-shirts coming in the mail, which Brian doesn't want me to talk about.
I was gonna say, do you want to? How much more time do you want to spend on that? No, we can't. We're not gonna. Derek has been like patiently waiting with us like all night because we invited Derek on because we've batted about this idea for a couple years that like the bigger the cupful grows, basically every year we add a tier. That's how we've done it through the 8 seasons. So last year we added tier 8. The year prior we added tier 7. And at some point we can't keep doing that, especially for folks like Derek who win their division in tier 8 and the road. Like we've added the fast track. So if you have the top point total in the entire cupful, you can jump up to the top tier. But otherwise, the longer we make this pyramid, because there's 7 tier 7, 6 tier 6 divisions, 5 tier 5 divisions. With every growing year, it becomes maybe a little more disheartening or disenchanting to sign up and like if you really want to compete in tier 1, to actually get there. We try and we've experimented with some different ideas over the last couple of years to make like more turnover in the top tier. Like a lot more mobility between promotion and relegation. So that's been one way we've done it. But Derek wrote us in the exit survey. And Derek, if you don't mind, I'm actually just going to read. So Derek started just by telling us, like, compress the number of tiers. Don't keep adding a tier every year. Numerically or psychologically, it just seems like the chances of promotion from tier 8 or tier 9 up to tier 1 is too remote, and new potential managers are highly at risk of passing on the league because why bother? Even if promotion is harder, there only being 5 or 6 tiers would seem like you're closer to having a shot within the next couple seasons. I have built a model that should work for cupful in sustainable ways. It grows each year, and would love to get a chance to present it to the team. So this really excited us. So I wrote Derek. He shared like a whole prepared, this is very professional proposal. Like this could go in an academic journal. I'm not going to read it as much as Elon would like me to, word for word. But that's why we have Derek on the show to share. And Derek also is here for another reason. The next rule thing that we got maybe the second most feedback on after goalies. But Derek, we like you said, we have this, maybe, I don't know if it's been a problem yet, but it's probably about to be a problem where the bigger the cupful gets, the harder it seems to climb that mountain to the top. Elon wants to jump in before I throw to you, but Elon, I'm going to throw to you and you can ask him the question. Fine.
Yeah, no, I just want to make it clear to people to know how things are currently before Derek gives a suggestion, right? Just to give the context, like Derek just won his tier 8 division. So he's going to be in tier 5 next year. It's a 3-tier jump currently. And then the way we have it now, if we don't make any changes, right, then if Derek wins his tier 5 division, he can make it up to tier 2 the following year. So he could potentially be like a 3-year journey of wins to get to tier 1. But I think the key thing there was also like psychologically, like maybe it's just hard, like Derek said, like even just like the fact that you're going to be starting in tier 9, even if actually we've made it so that like you can make these huge jumps. But anyways, I'll let Derek speak on that. But yeah, I just wanted to give the sense of like how it currently works. But yeah, Derek, I read it. It was great. But yeah, let's hear your awesome proposal.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks again for having me on the show. Longtime listener, very happy to be on. Yeah, I think I'm probably not the only one who's had a thought like this, and that just, the adding a tier every time, you measure height in the number of tiers. That's just kind of the way people would see it, or at least the way I would see it. And it, you delve into the rules and you see, the opportunities for promotion up 2 or 3 tiers. But a lot of people may not get that far. May just see, oh, new managers start in tier 8. Oh, they start in tier 9 this year, or the year after if it's going to be tier 10. It does seem like a lot. So, in terms of like, principles, I think you want to keep in mind when setting up a league or modifying the KKUPFL. I think there is a great opportunity for advancement in KKUPFL, and I'm very fortunate, very happy, about my own personal result. Obviously, it doesn't work out for everyone, but I'm very happy myself. Yeah, there's definitely opportunity. You want to keep that, but you also want to improve the perception of the opportunity to move up within, what you might want to consider a reasonable time frame. In my head, that's 1 to 3 years. You want someone to think, okay, if I start playing KKUPFL this season, if I'm really good, put a lot of effort into it, things break right. Within 1 to 3 years, could I be getting close to that tier 1? Could I be, at least, be closer to it than I am now, obviously. And I think, the average person who, has a, maybe realistic outlook on luck and, the chances of advancing, out of a division of 14 other really, interested fantasy hockey managers, or 13 other managers, maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe I can move up a tier a year, or if I have a really good year, maybe I can move up 2 years. So, you start thinking, okay, in the current system, within 1 to 3 years, I'm still going to only be at tier 5, probably, or maybe tier 4. So, as each year passes, each, tier gets added, I think that we do start to, lose a little bit of that perception of opportunity to advance. And, I really wouldn't want people to pass on the KKUPFL based on that. It's just,
Right.
it would be a shame, I think.
So how are we going to fix it?
I think, from my perspective, it's, you still want a pyramid. You want everyone to have the chance to climb, but you flatten the pyramid, and you take advantage maybe of sort of a pyramid that's, still only going to be 1 division at the very top. I think that's a core aspect of the KKUPFL tier 1 experience that people would want to keep. But, instead of 2 divisions in tier 2, maybe there's 3 divisions in tier 2. Instead of 3 divisions in tier 3, maybe there's 6 in tier 3. You start sort of, the slope of the pyramid changes, over time. You start very steep, and then it sort of gradually widens at the bottom to the point where you end up with, tiers 4, 5, and 6, let's say, that maybe are the lower tiers in the new system, with 10, 16, 20, 22 divisions, in each respectively. And that can kind of vary year to year based on the number of new players signing up, the number of returning players. And so you end up with a system that you're not adding a new tier every year, but rather you might start new players in tier 6 every year, along with some, returning players. If you were in tier 6 one year, you weren't successful, you're going to be in tier 6 again the next year. Maybe there's some tier 6 divisions with returning players, and there's also some tier 6 divisions with new players as well. So you can still have that, new division or new player division energy and mentoring and that sort of thing. And I'm speaking about some specific numbers here and the idea of a 6-tier system, which I think makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't have to be that way. I think there can, understandably be a lot of people whose perspectives might be a bit different, might say, actually, I think we should have only 5, or maybe, 6 is still not enough, we should have 7. There's definitely room for tweaking the numbers a bit here and there. but within this general concept of a more flattened pyramid, not adding a tier each season.
Okay. So far the idea is instead of having that extra tier each season, and as it is now, eight divisions in tier 8 and 7 in tier 7, you're saying increase the number of divisions in each tier. So what you've proposed with like a beautiful image, and Elon, I think, or Derek, with your permission, I would love to share this proposal in our Discord channel.
Yeah.
But so you're proposing 3 tier 2s instead of 2, 6 tier 3s instead of 3, 10 or more tier 4 divisions, 16. Basically, you're in tier 6. Tier 6 is the new, or the bottom of the pyramid. And
base sounds better than bottom.
The base. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Okay. Do you do marketing? Like, I feel like there might be a lot of good opportunities here for us to learn from you. Okay. And then this at least offers, like, psychologically, I agree. Like, I don't want to join a league and be in tier 9 knowing the promotion relegation mechanic is there. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, it sounds to me like we're probably, if we go this way, the idea is it'll still probably take the same amount of time to climb up when you join, except it'll just be like, we'll kind of shift everyone up, and like then like the promotion relegation, you won't fall as much when you have a bad season, you won't rise like as much when you have a good season, but maybe in the end it'll work out. So yeah, so
it is true. Sorry, Elon, to interrupt, but I just want to also add, like, the difference between right now, like tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 2 and tier 3 is small. And like, I think a side benefit of this is like your pool of potential opponents grows without giving up, like the way I see it, without giving up. Like, we love the tiering system for, like, you find your skill level, right? And you play within it. And I like that this offers more people probably to play at their true skill level instead of, being bumped down a tier or 2 more than they need to just to make the numbers work, and then just bump back up the next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be something we'll play with. Obviously, like, we've already promised people where they're going to go next year who played last year, so we're not going to make this change for this upcoming season. But then we'll release, if we go this direction, obviously we'll like get people's feedback like everything else. If we go in this direction, then we'll create a mapping of like, okay, everyone in season 9, you're in your tiers now. We'll let you know like where your final standings will lead for you to be in season 10. It'll obviously be fair and based on that. So that a couple other quick things.
I'm going to say like that. I'm not against trying to implement it for this year. Just gonna.
Well, okay. I think,
like, you said we wouldn't, and I don't want to rule that out.
Okay, I think we shouldn't. But anyways, we could take that offline. Yeah, a couple other just small things that Derek mentioned his proposal that I just wanted to shout out there that like maybe would be worth considering. One was maybe not having always just new players against each other. Maybe it would be cool if some new players could come in and play with, like maybe the new players could play against the people who came back that had like a really bad year the last year. And so it's like, because it's not, or, we'll have to figure it out, but like maybe, because I think the point that I thought was interesting in the proposal was like, some people come in and they're Derek, like they're like a stud. They're like a really great fantasy player, but they're just starting at the bottom. And it's like not really maybe a fair representation of like, just, oh, you're in the last bottom tier. So you're, or the base tier. So you're like the worst players, you know what I mean? Like, it's like new people. So maybe it'd be fun to mix some new people with some returning players in a way where, and also I think it might be good just because then you're playing with people who maybe have some experience in the community, because there's more to just a fantasy league than like winning and like the competition. Like, there's also just the having fun with your league. And maybe if you have some people in your division who have been in the community for a while, then you're like getting more acclimated and having a good time with people instead of it's all just newbies. So I think that's something worth considering. And then another thing Derek said that I also thought was worth considering is maybe we could increase the number of people in tier 1. Since everyone's goal is to get to tier 1, why not just like, implement inflation, right? Just like make it that now it's easier to get to tier 1, because instead of like 14 teams, it's like 16 teams or 18 teams. Because obviously like we've chose 14 teams specifically because we think it's good in terms of how deep the league is. Like, the more teams you have, then all of a sudden, players that, like, there's like free agents that people haven't heard of, like just players that generally aren't fantasy relevant. But the more like participants you have, if you have the same size teams, that there's more people being rostered overall. So you have to know about those like third liners and those like third pairing defensemen. But maybe for tier 1, it's like we're all supposed to be the best of the best. I say we as if I'm still in tier 1. I'm definitely not in tier 1 anymore. But as a former tier 1 champ, I'll just say we. But like, you know, like if you're in tier 1, like you're the best of the best. So maybe you can handle having a deeper, like really crazy league where Damon Severson and Ivan Provorov are like rostered all over the place. And like you're lucky to get one of those guys. And they'll be like Gavrikov as like the top defenseman
I guess
available in free agency.
Yeah, my concern with like expanding the player pool that much is like, you know, when you're streaming free agents, you are like just throwing darts a lot of the time, right? Like sometimes it's like, yes, you made the right play and you can hold on to a guy longer than you would have expected. But maybe that's the quant side of me talking again, where like, yeah, maybe it should be like, did you get, but you know, often when you're streaming in a competitive 14 team, like in a competitive couple division, it is, you know, 10 managers take their shots. And like, I'm happy with 7 or 8 different options. I usually get one of them and it's a total.
Well, yeah.
You know, yeah.
I mean, also we wouldn't like double the participants in tier 1. Maybe we could go from like 14 to 16 was a suggestion.
Yeah.
So anyways, obviously we could like discuss this as like the whole episode, like talking about how we manage this, but 2 ideas that I wanted to throw out there also that people can start sharing their feedback on. But
all right.
Anything else you wanted to talk about on this topic, or are you going to the next one?
In terms of the tier 1 size, I do think it's an interesting thing to consider, and I agree. I would, you know, you wouldn't want to push it too far to make it ridiculous. But the nature of tier 1 being an auction draft, unique from the standard snake system used everywhere else, I think it gives a little flexibility to consider it. You know, moving up a little bit to 16 or 18, and you know, you could do it as a trial. You could see how it works 1 year, and if it doesn't work out, you can always go back. But yeah, you know, in terms of motivation for people joining KKUPFL, the opportunity to get up into tier 1 and play in tier 1 is a big part of it, I think. So I would definitely support at least considering the idea of increasing those spaces.
It's kind of like the thing, like I want to see how it actually look without having to actually go ahead and do it. Like I'm really interested but I'd feel nervous about, but anyway, this is all up for discussion. We're
not in tier 1. We don't have to worry about it. Let those nerds figure it out.
Well, yeah, we are commissioners of the league that would want to defend its integrity. But Derek is going to be our fall guy actually as part of this. I don't know if we'd mentioned that part, that if anything goes wrong, just blame it on Derek.
Feedback at KKUPFL.com goes directly to Derek's email.
Derek's personal phone somehow. Okay. So yeah, and I think I don't recall if we mentioned through that discussion, but one change we made is we rewarded points in the regular season more in promotion during the last season than we did in the past. It used to just be all playoff finish. And then like with playoffs being random, we gave a little more promotion weight to how you did in the regular season. People liked that, but they felt like it was kind of unclear. And we also did spring it on people last minute. So that's well, it won't be last minute anymore. We'll try and clarify the rules, but I think so far the feedback is positive. One comment that we did get is that someone said, it didn't affect me at all this season, but I'm not really a fan of the points for leader being in one of the promotion slots because if you have any major injury, like you're immediately out of the running for points for over the course of the season. And they said, you might have the stats to prove me wrong, but I'd bet a large majority of points for leaders, like total points leaders in the KKUPFL divisions, had very few injuries. So I brought this to Kevin Hebert, our KKUPFL coordinator. I was like, hey, Kevin, can you run the numbers? And he was like, this is true. Absolutely, 100%. If you get hurt, you do, like if you have one of basically your top 2 picks get hurt, you are in trouble for competing in points for, and so you better pull it off in the playoffs if you want your promotion. So Elon, with that data, does that change your mind at all on how we've sort of structured our promotion system to reward total points in the regular season ahead of some playoff finishes that they were previously behind?
Yeah, I think I'm convinced by that. And also I think we made it a little complicated this year. The way we made it for this year was like the order for promotion in a division was number 1, you win your league. Number 2, the top seeded team in the regular season. So that's based on like just the Yahoo rankings of your, head-to-head matchups. Then we said the next is the runner-up of the league. So the team that lost in the finals. And then number 4 was the regular season points leader. So it's like kind of like jumping all over the place with what it is. So I think just to make things easier, let's just make it, well, my proposal would be league winner, number 1, of course, then President's Trophy winner, and then after that, just the rest of the standings. And maybe, so I think like this injury reason is compelling also. And I think also just to make it simpler in terms of who's getting promoted and who's
So,
not.
I
think those
mean,
two-
yeah. I mean, I
two
guess
roles.
the concern there is like you're rewarding the best win-loss record, but not necessarily the best total points.
Yeah.
Right?
So I know
which
head
is
to head
schedule
is
luck.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's some schedule luck. It's random, but also I think there is skill in winning head to head matchups and knowing like let's say if you're having a really bad luck one matchup and you're getting like Derek faced it, right? You said you were like 12-9 in the regular season, even though you led in points.
I'd have to double check, but
Something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that there is some skill in like, I'm losing this week because of bad luck. I can see my opponent is destroying me. So I'm going to like start making moves like earlier in the week to focus on next week, which like hurts you for total points. Cause I could be like just maximizing every day, even though like my opponent's going to get 330. I could still get myself up to 300 this week, even though it's like a meaningless thing to do. But, you know, or you can just like take the L, get like 200 points that week, but then, you know, like really stock up for the next week. So obviously you might hurt yourself by doing that too much because the tiebreaker in the standings is like total points. If like two teams are 12-9, then the higher ranking is the one who has more points. So I think it's enough. I think total points being a tiebreaker for standings is like enough value for total points. And like, look, we're in a head-to-head league at the end of the day. So I think we have to just kind of that's my proposal anyways, would be to just lean on head-to-head and take out the total points for promotion.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get some feedback,
of course,
you know, on that.
But I feel good about this.
Yeah, Derek, were you going to add something?
I think, you know, just on that point, the ranking, there's a curious aspect of the ranking, you know, system that was implemented this year, in that, you know, the top 6 teams make the playoffs, but it's possible that you could be a playoff team that end up ranked 7, because if a non-playoff team actually won the points for it would be unlikely, but it is possible that, you know, a non-playoff team could win the points for, have a, you know, a 10-12 record, or sorry, a 10-11 record, and you know, then you end up with the weird situation. Yeah, I made the playoffs, I even won my first round, but then I lost in the semifinals, and somehow I'm ranked 7th. You know, that would be an unfortunate situation, but you know, if it did end up happening. And yeah, if you've already got the regular season points totals, you know, applied in the fast track, and maybe you have more tie-breaking or more opportunities for advancement out of the fast track, maybe that makes up for not having it as one of the, you know, ranking within division criteria. So something to consider there.
Elon's for the listeners and not the watchers, Elon gave that a thumbs up. He's
Good points, mate.
He's gonna consider that.
So what do we got next here? We're going to talk about the third round reversal, right? And how popular it was.
Yeah, you're trying to scoot along. But we did get a lot of really good, what very eloquent, articulate feedback here. And Elon, you were talking about the matchup variance. Like, and someone made the point, like, you know, head to head, it can be random and it's hard to know how much to let go. And someone made the comment, there wasn't really a solution or suggestion to come out of it. Although the suggestion was to have a 2-win head-to-head week where like you get a win for the matchup and a win for being in the top half of scoring, which we can't implement, unfortunately. That would be great. Or like a Mario Kart point system.
Yeah.
Like based on your like we've talked about this. And just for anyone asking, like, we're not moving to Fantrax. Like, Fantrax is great. It has its purpose. Like it has so many features, so rich and so perfect for so many leagues. But we've done the work. We've done the data gathering, and not for ours. But basically, like, randomness plays a bigger factor in the KKUPFL, where you have 14 highly competitive managers, especially in the higher division. So it's like, you know, the edge. What do you call the thing in gambling?
Yeah, the edge.
Edge. Yeah, the edge is even smaller that you're trying to win on. Anyway.
Maybe just to say for people who are wondering then, oh, why don't you just do like, you know, roto, or like just like total points at the end of the season is the winner? Like, that would definitely be more fair, but like head to head is just, in my opinion, more fun. Like, I think that's one thing where we haven't been quants. It's like head to head is for sure not the most fair way to determine the best fantasy player, but it's like, what's more exciting than a close matchup on a Sunday versus like 2 months into the season, you already know who's going to win probably. And then it's kind of like boring for a while. I really love head to head, and I think we should definitely always keep it with its flaws and warts.
Yeah, exactly. And like, we have to accept that this is what we've got. One thing that we have to decide whether to accept or not, and was a hot topic through the year. Okay, so coming into the season, Connor McDavid had like a ridiculous, has been ridiculous, right? He's been a cheat code in fantasy for a little while. And we said, okay, when all divisions except tier 1 snake draft in the cupful. So first pick, it's a bit of a lottery. You get McDavid. And the argument was basically that like that getting McDavid first is not fair. Even with like in a snake format, you're cleaning up with McDavid first. So how can we mitigate the McDavid impact? Well, we talked about this last summer, and there's this thing called a third round reversal where you can have the order of the third round repeat the order of the second round to push the McDavid manager's next pick back even further than it would normally be. I hope that sort of makes sense. So, you're going 1 to 14 and then 14 to 1 in the second round and then 14 to 1 again in the third round.
Yeah. And we should say quickly that when we like implemented this, it wasn't only with the idea that McDavid was going to be a cheat code. Like looking at it, it looked like going into last season, if you recall, it was like the top 4 just seemed so stacked. It was like McDavid, Draisaitl, Matthews, McKinnon, then like a huge drop. And then people were like, maybe Makar, maybe Kaprizov, but it was like so obvious the top 4. So like, yeah, just like this season just turned out to be that it was like McDavid, then a huge gulf. But like just to go back to the reasoning where we came up with the idea in the first place, it was really like the idea if we wanted to not only make it harder for the McDavid drafter, but like the top 4. But anyways, that was what we did.
So it was really contentious about whether or not like this was the right thing to do. Are we penalizing the McDavid pick too much, or does it not even matter and we're just screwing with things for the sake of screwing with things? Someone suggests we just consider removing Connor McDavid from the pool, and someone's also like, let's not add a 5th round reversal too. If we do that, just take McDavid out of the pool. Like there's only so many things you can do to control for McDavid just being crazy. And someone mentioned, there's been some discussion regarding McDavid and the top 5 picks and the way everything's distributed. But, there's one McDavid year where other elite players like Matthews, like this year, had a down year in comparison. And the year before, Matthews had a great year and there was no talk of whether it was fair. Should we change things? Some people were like, yeah, the third round reversal is okay. Some people really didn't like it. They said it failed. Any attempt to continue the experiment is arrogance that borders on incompetence. This was really harsh. Someone also said like it was shameful, like something we did was shameful at some point. Like, and I'm just like we're doing this for fun.
The third round reversal was shameful.
I don't remember the context of that.
I appreciate the feedback. I love the passion.
Love the passion, but you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right?
Not for me, actually.
You want to be shamed into doing
I'm not telling you what I want. I'm telling you how my brain works. It's like if you compliment when
true.
I see like our 5-star reviews
really easily.
When I see when I look at our reviews on like iTunes, I'll see like 10 5-star reviews and be like, that's nice. Then I see one like 1-star review. I'm like, oh my God, my life is over. Like this is terrible. And then I like that, whatever that one says, that's the thing that I come to Brian. Like, Brian, we have to change the whole show format because this guy said that, blah, 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 blah. So
yeah. Okay. So anyway, Derek, this is point number 2. We've taken like enough of your night, I feel. Thank you so much for spending your time with us here. I guess like you save the time on listening to the show later since you're listening to it with us here.
Yeah, but he has to do it at 1.0 speed right now.
Yeah,
usually he could probably like bump that up a bit.
Yeah, that's true. We owe you time, Derek. Okay, but Derek, like this was hot discussion all year long. Like at different points it would bubble up and then boil over. But Derek has looked at numbers here. He's done the research to determine whether it was too much of an advantage to everyone who didn't own McDavid to have the third round reversal.
And I'd love to even frame it like not only like McDavid, right? Just like the top picks.
Was
it too much of a disadvantage to the top picks versus an advantage to the late picks?
Or was it too much of a disadvantage to picks 2, 3, and 4 who are being disproportionately punished for not getting McDavid, right? That was the big. Okay, so I think that's enough.
Save us, Derek. What should we do?
What are we supposed to do? And all feedback, remember, goes to Derek after we make the decision. So
all right, I won't bury the lead on this one. I will say straight up, I am a supporter of the third round reversal, and in fact, I don't think it goes nearly far enough. And I'm happy.
So 5th round reversal.
Yeah. So as you alluded to during the season in the Keeping Karlsson Discord. There was some discussion about how it was working out, and I did put together an analysis in the fall. I can't remember exactly when, might have been November or something, and it was based around some data from the prior year. So 2021, 2022. And I did kind of two versions of it, one based on what people might have expected to be drafting, and then one based on the end of the season results, what actually happened, how much more valuable was, a top of the first round pick compared to bottom of the first round, and how did that change every subsequent round, over the course of round two, top versus bottom, how much value are you getting or losing, depending on if you're starting that round at the top or bottom. Same with third and fourth, et cetera. And my conclusion from that analysis was that generally the difference between the top of round one, and I'm not meaning pick first overall, I mean on average, pick 1, 2, 3, 4, so if we were talking about, what people are expecting this year, the average of a McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Matthews, that sort of thing. What's the difference between that and the players that were being taken at the end of the first round, 13th, 14th, or beginning of the second, 15, 16, that sort of thing. And the difference between top and bottom of first is so much bigger than the difference between top and bottom of second, top and bottom of third, top and bottom of fourth. The difference between the top of round one and the end of round one was a bigger difference in value than the difference between the top of round two and the end of round four.
Wow.
That's wild.
I did another version of this analysis just in the lead up to this show, and I will share this on the Discord as well. And I'll even put it up on screen here for the people we have watching along live. This year, it's even more clear, I think. Basically, what you see here, and I've done a little bit of a depiction, but the average round, top of round one, and I'm not saying, McDavid's points per game this year was 9.52, I think, based on the data that I pulled from one of the sheets Elon was working on.
Insane.
The average at top of round one, even if you think it's only like 8.5 cupful points per game, to the bottom of round one, 6.5 or so points per game, that's a huge drop off. The drop off between, round two is only 6.5 points to 5.5 points. It becomes a lot flatter as you go further and further into the draft, and the numbers I'm using are based on the cupful average draft position. So you see this sort of, if you plotted a trend line, you'd see it's a very steep curve in round one, and it gradually shallows out, and you get a lot more variability as you go further and further into the draft. But generally speaking, the line of expected value tends to get a lot flatter. I'm going to continue this, and like I said, post it on the Discord. But it is very clear to me, based on the way that I do this analysis, that if you wanted to make it fair as possible, a snake draft just doesn't quite do it, and you need to reverse, the second, maybe, reverse the third round, maybe reverse the fourth round. And to be honest, if I wanted from my perspective, the fairest solution, it would be reverse every round after the first.
I'm just thinking of like the feedback we got. Like someone wrote, like, the third round reversal is a key factor in whether or not I continue in the cupful. I love it, but it's hard starting the season behind if you don't get McDavid and you're stuck at the front of the draft order. So Derek, like, you're saying that even second, third, fourth, fifth, even though you're not getting McDavid, you're not being disadvantaged. You're not being put behind the 8 ball just to try and to correct the McDavid impact.
Yeah, well, because I guess he's saying even Draisaitl compared to the second last pick in the round is like such a big jump. So if I get this correct, Derek, you're suggesting, which I don't think we're going to do this, but like you're kind of saying it should be like 1 to 14 in the first round, and then every single round afterwards is 14 to 1, like just like like a straight up draft of that's your kind of suggestion of what would make things the most fair to balance out the fact that the early first round picks are worth so much.
I think that there is a mathematical case for that.
Wow.
I know that that's crazy, to people who have based their lives around snake drafts. But just the way in which the drop off, has gone from last year's data and this year's data, it's clear to me that there is a big drop off, in that from 1 to 14 esque or 2 to 15, 2 to 13, whatever one you want to pick. And this year, people talk about Matthews having a down year, but he still averaged 7.35 a couple points per game. McKinnon and Draisaitl were above that. But then, you look at the end of the first round, you start getting so much more variability. I don't have all these names showing up on here, but obviously the big one that throws off the count is Huberdeau.
I didn't even need to hear the name.
So that's rough, but he's not the only one. There's a lot of other players that, in the second round, even early second round, that are just so much less valuable over the course of the whole season than those, top of the first round picks. And then, you keep going further and you get, obviously more outlier cases like, Landeskog didn't, play a game this season. So people who drafted him in the third round, that's, sucks. That's maybe that doesn't really, support a case either way on the reversal. But the point I would say is that, there's seemingly a lot more variability in performance, as you go more and more into the draft. The first round, barring an injury, the players taken in the first round are going to be getting you at least 6 full points per game. The worst first round player was 10th in this ranking. That was Marner. If he was,
and he could arguably do better next year too.
Yeah. So again, this, maybe the opposite of the discussion we were having earlier. Psychologically, I could understand people feeling disadvantaged by this, not wanting to reverse more rounds than the third, or not wanting the third round reversal at all. But it's something to consider, I think, in terms of how you want to balance those first few picks.
Yeah. I feel like this is almost like turning into the shorthanded points discussion a little bit, where it's like, so we could do the third round reversal and it's like cute and like, but it doesn't really get to the root of what, like it demonstrates like, it's like, we're virtue signaling, like we understand what we're trying to do, and like showing like, we get it. McDavid's an advantage. So we're just going to do this like token thing. So like now I don't know. I'm caught between like whether it's meaningful to do, like to still keep doing like one shorthanded point or a third round reversal, or if we really need to go ham here, which is going to be hard, by the way. Like some people shared like anecdotal evidence. Like someone said in tier 2 San Jose, the top 6 teams in the league corresponded to the final 6 draft positions, and the same thing happened in like one of their friends in tier 4.
Right.
So,
but of course the whole season is like so much more than just the draft, but I guess that like sticks in your head. Like anyways, obviously we're not going to make a decision now, but this is like really interesting data that we're going to take away, discuss with the patrons. I'm curious to hear what people think about this. Mason is suggesting in the chat, maybe like, not as crazy as Derek's like, every single round, but like he was saying maybe like rounds 2, 3, and 4 should be like 14-1, and then after that snake. So we'll have to like think about all the different options and also the psychological part. But this was awesome, Derek. So thanks so much for presenting that. Really, I think the key cases here is just the average amount of points you can expect from like an early first round pick versus a late first round pick, and then comparing that to the average points for early second versus late second, that really like makes the case to me of why you want to disadvantage a little bit the people who got those early first round picks, since you get like such a big advantage unless you totally, blow it. Like that year when, well, not that people blew it, but like the year that Kucherov, ended up missing the whole season after he was taken like 4th overall in a lot of leagues. But
it's so interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just going to say, it's really hard to totally, make it fair for those people who drafted Kucherov in the first round. Like, to some extent, that's a, if you are successful that season in spite of that, that's good on you. But, you are at a huge disadvantage. People who drafted Landeskog this year, people who drafted Huberdeau this year, it's a big disadvantage. I think, if it could be implemented with a, reasonable amount of admin work, some opportunity for people to bid on earlier draft positions, I think would make it seem fairer. For example, some people in the division might hate the third round reversal, might hate if you reversed even more than that. Some people might hate if you didn't have it and feel disadvantaged if they're drafting 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, whatever it is. But if you gave them the opportunity to bid, say, okay, we're going to start the bidding for who wants the first overall pick. And to get that bid, you have to sacrifice a 12th round pick. or something like that. And someone says, actually, I'll sacrifice an 11th round pick to potentially pick first. That's a whole other layer of admin work, but it's something I've thought about as, at least within that division, all of a sudden you can't argue it wasn't fair because everyone had the opportunity to bid on first overall. And, eventually maybe someone says, first overall is worth a fourth round pick to me. I'll give up my fourth round pick to get McDavid. And maybe that ends up being the highest bid that year. And if, McDavid does really well, everyone can say, I should have bid a third. But, it's an interesting, and again, like I said, potentially nightmarish amount of admin work to figure out how to do it. But if it could be done, I think that's a way to, again, make it fair, but also psychologically seem fair. Everyone had the same opportunity. It wasn't just a random number generator that assigned me the 14th pick or 5th pick Makar or whatever you want to consider.
That's
right.
so interesting. That's a really cool idea.
Therein lies the quandary, right? The random number generator. And we have some other ideas in the chat, like if you could auction the first 4 rounds, or just find a way to have a hybrid draft. And we're all trying to solve this problem called McDavid, if it is a problem at all. And it's really interesting that we had basically an even split of feedback between people saying the top half of the draft, the top half of the draft order was still overpowered. And another, basically another half of the feedback we got saying the bottom half of the draft is overpowered, which tells me that anecdotally, that's how one might see it. But if we have an equal amount of anecdotes on each side, then we're probably in the right spot. So we will, Derek is going to share his, like I said, extraordinarily academic and detailed work with the group. And we'll have some great discussions on the Discord server. Derek, I want to thank you again for coming on to stick your neck out on both the league. These are 2 pretty hot topics, the way we structure the pyramid and the draft order. So thanks for coming on and putting the time into this all season long too. On the third round reversal, you were responding to everyone's questions about it. You were basically taking charge of the conversation. So thank you for that. Thank you for this. And thank you for the discussions to come. We really appreciate having you on the show tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Had a great year this year playing in KKUPFL. Absolutely encourage anyone listening who hasn't tried it out, give it a shot. And thanks again.
Thanks, man. That was great. And I guess with that, Brian, let's take another break here, and then we'll come back with more feedback that you and I will chew on and see what else we can come up with here. So there's so many potential changes but also at the same time, I guess we have to keep in mind that we maybe also don't want to change too much.
That is some of the feedback, is you guys change the league every year. Just let it stay the same for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, oh man, that's the quandary. So, okay, we'll be back to talk about more of your awesome feedback. Thanks again, Derek. We'll be back soon. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson.
All right, Elena, how about I just come up? Or do you want to do
come
a
out of the
part
break.
2?
Go for it.
Do you want to
you want to end the show?
Do you want to make this a part 2? It would be a shorter part 2.
We could. I don't know. It's more work.
Okay, let's just keep doing it.
Yeah.
It's going to be long. People will like it. It's
the summer. Okay. You have a lot of time to listen to podcasts.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Just before we leave the draft, Elon, which I can tell you're so ready to do. Okay, I know.
No, I'm up for anything.
Okay. We have a couple, and thanks again to Derek. That was amazing. Someone mentioned that they don't love the slow drafts, and someone else mentioned could you group players together who want to participate in a normal draft? So that's something I don't know. Administratively, it's tricky. But thank you for the feedback, and we will consider whether there is a way that we can pragmatically make that happen.
So we should mention that we've changed the registration process this year, where Kevin has set up this awesome thing on Discord where we're just going to basically, to register for the couple, instead of filling out a form like in previous years, you'll just basically have to be a patron, which will give you access to our Discord, and then you'll click a button in the Discord being I want to register.
Boom.
Super simple.
And then because our server's boosted, you're going to get a fancy emoji next to your name to show that you have registered. There will be no doubt. You don't have to second guess whether you have registered or not.
Yeah, but the nice thing with that is we'll be able to put all the people who have registered into a room, and Kevin's even setting it up. By the way, Kevin's the best. I should say, he's got a lot of great tech going on behind the scenes. It's going to make the couple run super smoothly this year. Very excited about it. But one thing that we've been discussing that maybe we can do is like when you register, we'll also be able to know right away what tier you're supposed to be in. Because, you know, we already released to all the people who played last year what tier you're expected to be in next year. Obviously, there could be a little bit of upward movement depending on how many people don't come back, opening up spots in higher tiers. But theoretically, we could, you know, tag everyone who's like supposed to be in tier 4, and then maybe like throw out a, you know, a who press this button now if you're supposed to be in tier 4 and you want to draft on this day at this time. And maybe it will be easier to potentially coordinate live drafts. So, you know, that's definitely great feedback, and we will talk, you know, we won't, that's the kind of thing that, like, as long as we can figure it out administratively, I definitely get it. Like, it's fun to do a live draft if we can find enough people in a tier that are all available at the same time to do it. I don't like see a reason why not. I don't think it's an advantage or a disadvantage one way or the other. So yeah, it's definitely good feedback, and we'll talk about and try to figure out if there's a way to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're looking at like cross division competition, I could see it an advantage because a live draft you can have like 2 days before the season, whereas in the slow draft, your first pick is like 2 or 3 weeks before the season. So things happen in training camp, injuries happen. So
maybe
I think
we should like time it to be like in the middle of the slow drafts to make it fair.
Yeah, if we were to do it, because and someone also, everything I say is based on feedback we got, but someone also mentioned, like, you know, I'm watching what's happening in other tiers, considering that I need to be the highest scoring team in my tier at this ranking spot to be able to get this sort of promotion, and I can control what happens in other divisions. So yeah, anyway, that's part of it. Another something to consider, another piece we had is Jordan, tier 1 competitor, said he thinks that the auction draft in tier 1 is the most important part of the season. And how much does it suck for anyone new to tier 1 to come in and do an auction for potentially the first time ever? How fair or reasonable is that? So he and
Ryan, who just won the whole darn thing, that was his first time. I feel like you're in tier 1. I'm just like not gonna have much sympathy for people who are in tier 1 in terms of like
Ever.
You're an amazing fantasy player that made it this far. I think you can figure it out. That's the way I take it.
We had a lot. We had several respondents say like it would be great to add more auction drafts, like, which Elon and I both agree. The trouble is when someone doesn't show up for an auction draft, it wrecks the entire thing because you have like a robot doing like either auto bidding or not bidding. There's no way to keep things like reasonable and not let them get wacky.
Maybe one day Chat GPT will make a good enough, you know, AI auction drafter, but it just doesn't seem like that exists right now.
At the same time, Elon, like I wonder, like maybe if we, so one thought I've had is if we set up auctions and we just have proxies like who are ready, who want the practice. Maybe you're not in tier 2 or 3, maybe you're in tier 4, 5, or 6, and you're like, yeah, sure, I'll be on standby if someone doesn't show up. And then like, you know, let's say like if like there's 2 or 3 more people, like 2 or 3 or more missing, like we cancel it. But if it's just one, we have some proxies at the ready that can jump in, and that lets everybody draft and lets some people get some extra experience.
Look, I'm not against it. We've got Kevin on the payroll now, so it's kind of like if Kevin is up for like,
if we as a team can work the logistics.
I'll just say back when I was the only one like kind of like coordinating this and trying to put all these drafts together, it would be a lot of, even like, because then I'd have to coordinate with the proxies. I have to reach out to all the proxies and like make sure they're all on standby, and like, you know, it's just kind of like reach out to them to let them know if they're in or not. Like, yeah, it's all happening at the last minute of like deciding like, where's this person, messaging the person who's not there, are you coming? Maybe they'll be like, yeah, sorry, my car broke, I'll be there in 5 minutes, can you just like delay the draft for see, you know, it's like with snake draft, it's like if someone doesn't show up, their team like won't be terrible. So you know that even if then they turn out they like bailed on the league, like someone else could come in and take over that team and it won't be a disaster, because Yahoo has like default rankings that we always make fun of every year, but they're not like the most insane. So but anyways, it's potentially doable for sure. What you're proposing, Brian, in theory sounds great.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of if we're willing to put in all the admin work to make it happen.
We'll take a fresh look at
Yeah.
it as we all, and like, because the
And
feedback's
we have
there.
more
If no
help
one was
now.
asking for it, we would not even think about it. But yes, we have more help. Kevin's on the team, so we'll see. By the way, for what it's worth, also, I know we don't need to go backwards, but Kevin also ran his own numbers for the third round reversal, and he also found that the top 7 picks generally finished better than the bottom 7 picks,
There you go.
even with the third round reversal.
Proof is in the
Okay.
pudding.
Trading. Ready?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Here we go. Someone said counter trades are literally tampering.
Okay, let's first say what the rule is before we
Okay.
start getting feedback about
You're
the
right.
rule.
You're right. I've been bad at this. I've been just jumping in, assuming everyone has the same starting point. So we have this unique, one of a kind. Well, not anymore, because a lot of people we've asked, like, take it. It's like a GitHub thing. Fork it. I don't know. I'm trying to talk about things I don't understand. But basically, we made this counter offer rule because rip-off trades ruin leagues, right? And commissioner vetoes are annoying. And we actually tried having trade juries one year where like people would vote, so it wouldn't have to be the commissioner, and it was like hard to organize and still kind of messy. And so our solution to rip off trades is counter trades, where if you see a trade happen in your division, you have a set amount of time to send a better offer to one of the managers in your division, one of the other managers involved in the trade, for the exact same package that's available. We introduced the feature a few years back, and it's manual. Like we do the work behind the scenes. It's just all communication and then commission vetoes and whatever. Initially, it was unlimited counters. Like, you could counter a trade and then you could get countered on your counter and a counter. Anyway, we put a stop to that last year. It was one counter, one and done. You can accept one counter for either side of the trade, and that's it.
And like to motivate.
Yeah, go ahead. You're muted. You muted yourself.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Let me just put edit point here. Yeah, and I'll just say like a motivation for this, right, is this idea that like, yeah, like Brian said, bad trades like could ruin a league. And also it's like if I'm in a league and I see like a really terrible trade, oh, the first place team just ripped off the 14th place team. I hate that there's nothing I can do about it. You're helpless. So it's like I think it's like a good feeling. So you saw a trade that go down that you don't like I could beat that. So okay, put your money where your mouth is. Make an this person traded, sometimes there's a trade that you think is a ripoff, but other people might not think is a ripoff. Like, oh, this person traded Matthew Tkachuk for whoever, Roman Josi. That's such a dumb trade. I could offer better for Roman Josi. So it's like, all right, if you think it's like such a bad trade, you offer someone that you think is better than Matthew Tkachuk. And if you can convince the person who made that trade that your offer is better, then they'll counter. Then like kind of everyone's happy. And like I will say that the one big benefit of the trade counter system to us has been that there's been like a lot fewer needs for veto. Like we still have the ability to do commissioner vetoes. If you read our rules, it's like, and anyone's allowed to contest a trade. Basically, the way we made our rules, if you see a trade you don't like, you don't have to offer a counter. Like you can just reach out to us and be like, I think this trade is BS. And then we'll like consider it, consider vetoing the trade. Like we still have that ability, but like we had so many fewer of those because the people instead took their energy towards trying to work out a counter. And oftentimes trades weren't countered. Like it was still, I'd say, I'd like to actually get the data on that, but I think it was like 10%. Like I know at least in tier 1 where I was, we had a bunch of trades and very few counters, maybe like one counter the whole season. But I think just everyone feels good about knowing that I have the option, right? If I see a trade that I think is imbalanced, I can go and send a counter. So that's sort of the motivation behind it. It's made it good because also whenever Brian and I veto a trade, like in past history of KKUPFL, that usually leads to like someone quitting the KKUPFL because they're so mad. Like usually it's like the person who got ripped off that like is so embarrassed that we vetoed the trade that they like just quit out of anger. They're like, you guys like let me just do what I want.
Well, we got one wrong last year, I think.
I mean, it's hard.
In season 7.
Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of the motivation. Like we don't want to veto trades. We want to let people play. And this is a way we can let people play, but with the ability to like, if you see something really bad, you could do something about it.
Right. And if you think it's so bad and so dumb, then like put your money where your mouth is. And if it's still not working out, like of course.
But also, of course, yeah. And then let me guess, Brian, we had feedback of people being like, oh, we're hand holding, we're making it like people should be held accountable.
I think there's been a vocal minority since we started with the rule who didn't like it. I think generally the feedback is I know I started on negative. I guess it's just how I organize this. But largely it's positive. People say like, I really like the counter offer process. And I want to take this opportunity just to bust one myth. People yeah, so some people say like you have to let people screw themselves over. But again, as Elon was saying, the problem is if you make a bad trade for your team, you're not just screwing yourself over, you're screwing over 12 other managers who have to deal with this team who just got a player they shouldn't have in the first place. They also say like we also had some feedback and like some comments, and like it's fair. Like it's just, some people are concerned there's a chilling effect because of our counter trade. You see less trades because people don't want to put in the work just because they know they could get countered. Like, what's the point? I'm not going to bother making a trade because someone else is just going to swoop in and take my deal. Which, hey, it happens to me all. Like, I feel like a disproportionate amount of my trades get countered. I don't know if that, and like
I
I
can
don't
explain
even.
that, I think, because I've seen your trades and you usually win those trades.
No, like I think maybe like in a past fantasy life, but in the like this year and last, I feel like I made a lot of like reasonably even trades, and like I think the counters weren't as good as what I think I was offering very anyway, whatever. Okay, so the argument is that counter offers decrease the number of trades, right? People don't want to trade.
Yeah.
And so I asked Kevin to run the numbers. We have data.
Ooh.
And there is no difference from before we had the counter offer rule in place to after.
Wow.
That's
I didn't
it.
realize he was able to go that far back. I guess
Well,
we gave
so
him the league IDs.
he did trades per manager from season 4. So it's not a perfect stat, right? Like, but so he had 0.4 trades per manager in season 4. And then since we've put in the rule, we had a really low trading year the first year with the rule. And I don't know if that had an impact. It was just 0.25. But since then, 0.4, 0.5, 0.4 trades per manager.
Cool. Yeah.
So it
Well, here's
seems,
the thing also. It's like,
yeah,
if I think that if someone offers me a trade and then I accept it and then it gets countered, if I work with someone to make a trade, and then like, and it's accepted and we like discussed it a lot and then they accepted it. And then afterwards they accepted a counter. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'd be annoyed. I'd be like, hey, we agreed on this. Like, I
it's
thought you
not
were
fun.
so it's like, but I think then that would lead me to not want to trade with that person. If that person were to message me then a week later, be like, hey, you want to talk trade? I'd be like, no, I'm not going to trade with you. So it's like,
Yeah.
there is like a potential risk of like, if you just accept a counter. So like, I like to think of it as like, the counter is more for like when someone, like some people that play, we would never do this, of course, but some people like you just spam people. Like, there's some people who play that they just like send spam crappy trade offers to like everyone in the league.
That's the Yahoo Public League and Home League and Friends League tack. Like, it works. Like, people come into the cupful and do that, and managers are like insulted and
Yeah.
defended. Yeah.
Like, every once in a while, there'll
Can't
be
do
someone
that
that doesn't
here.
really know what they're doing, and they will accept one of those rip-off trades. And I feel like those are the typical types of trades that turn out to be rip-offs that we need the counter rule for. Like, I feel like anytime like I had a discussion, like, like Jordan, you brought up, like Jordan and I discussed some trades last year, and I remember like, we talked about them for a long enough time that like I had a pretty good confidence that like he wasn't going to accept a counter afterwards, because we talked about it. Like, we made sure it was something we both wanted to do. So obviously there's no rule about that. Like, you can accept any counter you want, but I'm just saying, like, as far as the chilling effect goes,
Yeah.
like it's up to you, but it's also like if you there are reasons why you wouldn't want to just accept a counter,
Right.
unless it was like such an obviously better deal. Because if it's just like marginally better, you might be burning a bridge. So
You don't want to burn bridges. And it's true.
that's up
It's
to you.
true.
It's how you want to
So
play.
I've got 3 points to make here. So first, I think we can tweak our counteroffer rule for this upcoming season based on some feedback we've gotten. The first is that you can counter your own trade. So like, Elon, if I've made a trade with you and you come back to me and you say, hey, I'm about to accept this counter, I should be able to have the chance to beat that counter. And we did implement that rule partway through last year, where
Yeah.
you can counter your own trade. If your trade partner gives you the heads up they're about to take the counter, you can take the opportunity to improve your package.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
So obviously it's up to that person to like say that to you and like give you that opportunity. And
You
it's
might not
also
have
up
the
to you
opportunity.
to decide if you believe them.
Yes.
But that's the psychology of it, I guess. You could always
Yeah.
you could always reach out to the person, the pay, like, oh yeah, who are you going to trade with? And like, but
Yeah.
anyway.
All right, so that's one. Someone else, Elon, suggested, and I thought this was a good suggestion. I'm wondering if you see the downside, that the counter offer window, because right now it's 24 hours, but why doesn't the counter offer window just match when the trade processes in Yahoo?
Well, Actually, that's for more of an admin reason, because we do have trades set to process in a day, actually. Except the way Yahoo works is once you make a trade, it processes like at the next 3 a.m. Eastern time after a day, so it ends up usually being 2 days. Because like if you accept a trade at like 10 a.m. in the morning, then the next 3 a.m. is going to come. It hasn't been 24 hours. So then it's going to go to anyways. But the nice thing is because the way we do the counters is like if two people accept a trade and then a new counter has been announced, then all we have to do is just cancel the pending trade and tell the now put in your new trade. We don't have to actually go in and like reverse a trade, because the trade hasn't processed yet. So it's very easy to just veto the trade like on the Yahoo platform. And then but if like we actually waited all the way, then there might be a case where like the trade happened, like the counter got announced, like, and I didn't have time to go in and like
and
cancel
then a game
it.
happened,
And then a game happens, and we have to like move people around. It'll be too much of a hassle.
Good
so
point.
It's just like this. That's the best way to do it.
So that's the reason why. I thought it was good feedback, but that makes sense to me. Okay. But Elon, the underlying comment here, like especially from people who are not a fan of the trade offer, like who say like it chills the trades. Someone wrote, unfortunately, there were almost 0 trades in my division and the ones my friends played in this year. And I'd love to see more, especially around the deadline. Since it's redraft, there isn't much incentive for losing teams to make trades. I love the relegation system, and I was trying hard to make a deal to avoid being demoted, but there was just no desire to engage. And I lost the consolation final, so I will be demoted. TLDR, how do we increase trade activity?
Well, I do.
Like people like trades. Like I think people get into fantasy hockey. I remember like my first year, like it's like that's the fun. It's like, oh, if I am right about a player before someone else realizes it, I can make a trade and improve my team. It's a fun mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, we have it available, and like I can't help if people don't want to make trades, but like I don't think we should be adding incentives for trading.
So I'm not saying like incentivize it necessarily. I guess the question is like if people, how do we? Is there a way to further enable?
Like I'm just gonna say I don't want to, like that's not something I'm actually interested in.
Elon
I know like
trading.
some people really like it.
Elon, let's say 90% of the couple managers, put yourself aside for a second. 90% of couple managers say it's more fun when there's more.
So then why
trades.
aren't they trading? If 90% of them want to make more trades, then why aren't there more trades? Like
because they're not in the same. Okay, say it's 60%,
I'm arguing with the premise,
and they're not in enough of the division. Stop arguing with the premise. Just work with what I'm saying. Couple is more fun when there are more trades.
But I don't agree with that.
I'm not asking you whether or not you.
So
I know you don't agree. I'm asking you if this is the feedback.
And we have to come up with a way to increase number of trades.
I'm curious to know if you.
Okay, fine. We can make it a categories league. If we made it a categories league, then different players would sort of be. There could be someone that, let's say, needs assists and someone else needs shots. Right now we're in a points league, so yeah, there isn't as much of a way to win a trade because it's like the players are all kind of like giving the same number of points. It's just like I'm trading this number of points for this number of points. I guess right now it's like I need D, you need a center, like that's. But also we right now have like a lot of flexibility with the 4 bench spots. So maybe if we had fewer bench spots, then if I need a left wing, like that would probably incentivize trade. Brian, you're like smirking, like I'm giving you answers here. Like
sorry, no,
bench spots.
I was reading Mason's comment in the chat. That's what I was reacting to.
Okay, well, I'm telling you, I think off the top of my head, changing it to a categories league would lead to more trades. Decreasing bench spots, I think, would lead to more trades because then position eligibility would matter a lot more to people. Those are 2 things off the top of my head. Yeah, so I think those are 2 things we could do to probably give bonus points if you make trades would also be a way.
Yeah, so it comes at a cost of other things, right? Like I think we like the roster flexibility, although like we've made the roster so that positions are like fairly meaningless. Like you don't really need to draft according to position or care too much about your distribution of positions on your roster. So no one really commented on that being a problem. So, but what I was smiling at with Mason was like, he said, make trades made the second tiebreaker. So it's like, which is funny that it would be any tiebreaker. It's like the second tiebreaker, you're not going to get to it. So I found that funny. If anyone else has, thoughts, I don't know, every trade you make gets you like a draw, like a raffle ticket or something like, but
honestly
then
though, as a commissioner,
I'm just lateral trades. And I was going to say, myself, Elon, like as like in charge of the league, it would be annoying to see like more trade noise just for the sake of noise.
I mean, I made like 3 trades last year. It was fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think that if you put in the work, maybe this person that gave this feedback happened to be in a division. And, that has to do with, I think, also the fact of what we were saying before about how all the new players go into a division of other new players. So I think a returning player to KKUPFL is more likely to be someone who's going to be more engaged, because a new player just could be someone who listened to the podcast, was like, I'll give it a shot. And then maybe a couple weeks and they're like, this isn't for me. And they kind of zone out. So like, hopefully that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen like
that.
I don't think that's the
likely,
reason. Like we have like 95% activity for managers.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, of the people who are inactive, I'll bet you it's mostly new people, because anyone who's played once and then chosen to come back, I think has like self-selected themselves to be like, I'm an active player. Like I've played, I want to come back. So I think if we were to like mix up new players with some returning players, that might also increase the like engagement, and then that might lead to more trades just because there's more like chatter going on.
Yeah, and I think it's also like anecdotal, right? Like if you really love trading and you can't find a trade partner, that stinks. A trade partner, that's no fun. But I think like I've never really found myself without a trade partner when I really want one, which I never really want one.
Yeah, it's like you don't need to make trades. Also, like I think it's really fun to just play free agency. That's my favorite part. Is like I look at my roster, I look at who the available free agents are, and I make trades with myself. I make trades with the free agent pool, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Gosh.
Brian loves making trades. Like like there is the whole fun thing, because we on the podcast are like, this player is overperforming. We think he's going to slow down. Chris Kreider is scoring on a crazy pace. And then, we're like, sell high. How many times a year do we say the terms buy low and sell high? I wish we even said it less. And but it's like, the advice is like, you should trade this guy now and get a good return before he slows down. And so then, people want to rush and make those trades, but it's hard because everyone who's listening to the podcast knows that like this player is overperforming.
and actually, I learned a lesson this year. Then if the trades I had proposed were all accepted this year, I would have been screwed. Like I was all over trying to buy low and sell high and got it wrong. I think like with every trade, like there were some trade offers, I don't have them handy unfortunately, but that like got rejected in the first few months of the season, and like holy cow, am I glad they did. Okay, that's it for trades.
Next thing. Yeah,
onto transactions. Great. Transactions, there wasn't a whole lot of feedback, so right now we have 4 moves a week. And the moves take place instantly, which was a change from previous years where it was, I think this was our second year with same day ads. Prior to that.
Yeah. Before that, we had the just fab ads every night.
Fab.
It was like fab. Every single time you want to add someone, you had to put in your bid and wait for the next day. And I don't think we're going to switch back. I think a lot of people were happy when we finally switched. That's like the most fair way to do it with fab, because then everyone has the same chance at a free agent. But also it's like you have to come up with like your list of like bids and your backup bids if you don't get that player, because you don't want to end up getting nobody because like the person who you wanted someone bid higher than you, and it would end up being like a whole big strategy session every single night to come up with your bids and your backup bids.
It's like an hour of like sitting down and trying to make a plan. And like, yes, there are still some drawbacks to same day ads, which is, people like to rush at 3 a.m. But I'll go back to what I said whenever, like earlier on the show, that, I usually have a bunch of like equal preferred guys. And even if there is a top guy and he's taking at 3 a.m., it's a coin flip whether or not he ends up being the best guy. So the fastest finger is not fun for people who don't have the opportunity to be the fastest finger. But I maintain that it's pretty rare for the fastest finger to actually really determine any kind of season long or even week long result. And I'm someone who doesn't have the fastest finger option either. Like I'm not setting a 3 a.m. alarm when the Yahoo system turns over and you can make an ad for anyone who's played that day. I'm not on my phone. I'm not available to check my phone or the news some days until like puck drop.
Yeah, but to be clear, Brian, just to make sure that everyone understands the Yahoo rules, you're allowed to add a player on Yahoo that's played that day. There's no rule against that. The problem is you can't drop someone who was on your roster that played that day. So you could drop someone who was on your bench that played that day, or you can add someone if you have if you have an open spot. So it's like, I think it's more like, let's say you had a player who played and then got injured and you want to put that person on your IR to add someone new, but you don't, but the person you want to add, like you'd have to drop someone else versus if you wait till 3 a.m., you could like then put your guy in IR. That's the kind of reason why. But like theoretically, you could always go and add someone. The only time you can't actually is if you've already used your 4 ads per week. Then you have to wait till Monday morning at 3 a.m. when your like ads replenish.
Yeah.
Then you can finally get that guy.
So what you're saying is right. I don't think it totally like it's not exactly like I think both of what we said stands separately. Like
I was just saying how it works. I wasn't saying
okay. Yeah. Anyway, so we had some people saying like go back to the next day ads, maybe put another ad per week, one or two fewer ads a week, because the rely like too much streaming with 4 ads per week. And like we always talk about the injuries and like how making up for that, like you need to have 1 or 2 ads a week to make up for main games you might lose due to injury. And that's why we have 4. If you can make free ads to replace injuries, I would definitely advocate to take it down. Like I would still like I'd go to 3 ads per week, but I know 4 is pretty important to you.
I think a lot of people. I think if you were to propose, you could do a poll right now if you want on Discord or tomorrow. Would people want us to decrease it to 3 ads per week? And I'm pretty sure it'd be like 90% no, and like most people would say they want to keep it at 4. But if I'm wrong, I'd be happy to discuss it. But I just remember when we like changed it to more, people were so happy. That was like 100% approval rate.
Yeah, well, but it's not a apples to apples comparison.
Okay, I'm telling you my prediction.
Like a yearly limit that was quite restrictive to a weekly limit that was pretty freewheeling.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's definitely some people who want to have fewer ads per week, but I think the large majority like having 4.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
Yeah. Well, maybe we will poll. I'm curious.
Yeah, I'd be happy
because I know like honestly the streaming aspect, like the next day fab, like I think for those who don't necessarily have the time commitment, I'm not so sure. Anyway, but like the couple,
I mean, that's a tough balance, right? It's like couple is like
you want to be competitive. You don't want to just like you don't
how
want
intensive a league do we want this to be?
Yeah.
Like some people maybe want it a little less intense.
I think 4 is right. I would take 3. I think 4 is fine. I'm good with it. Okay. I have a bunch of miscellaneous stuff. So how about I go through it and you tell me if anything catches your ear.
But can I respond after each one, or you can do them all like, and then I have to respond all at the end?
I don't know. You want to, what do you want?
Let's do one at a time. Like, let me respond as you go.
Okay. I missed the audio almanac.
Okay. Well, that has nothing to do with the cupful, but that was a really fun thing that we did. And I'd be up for doing it again, but I don't think Brian would be, because Brian's the busiest person I've ever met. And I'm lucky that Brian talks to me for 2 hours a week every Sunday.
It would be really it was crazy. Elon, I don't know that you could do. Well, you're on
now I'm on leave right
you're
now.
On leave.
I could,
yeah.
Maybe we would have to tweak how we do it. But yeah, we used to do this thing. We did it 2 years in a row where we both like recorded. We both took a week off of work and recorded this like 1 chapter per team, like an almanac where we came up with projections for each player, basically like that guide you buy in the supermarket, but like audio form. The thing is also now all these podcasts are doing like team previews and stuff, so maybe it's not as valuable, but I'm sure if we did it, some people would like it. But also it was like at the end of the day, after taxes especially, we didn't even make that much money off of it for like a week of vacation time that I gave up to do it, and like breaking our like hard work recording them all, editing them all. It just maybe if we charge like a lot more, but then like people would be like, oh, this is too price gouging for this like thing that like we could get all these podcasts that do something similar for free.
It was breakneck. It was all encompassing. It was like that was part of the fun and the challenge, but like we were either recording, prepping, or sleeping or eating, I think, for like a week and a half or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me anyway.
I don't think that's gonna happen, but I'm open. Like I posted actually on Discord being like, I'm off for now 4 more weeks on parental leave. So I do have a bit, like not like a lot of time, but I do have a bit more time to do a few more podcasts. Like if anyone has a suggestion of something,
usually on when I was on parental leave, I had less time.
Yeah, well, I mean, like at some point everyone goes to sleep, and I have like anyway, whatever. Like all I said like if someone has a suggestion of podcasts that I could do like with people in the community and not necessarily with Brian, and there was a suggestion. John Newholt suggested I do a quiz show, and then Andy stepped up to like, I'm going to host that. I'm up for hosting that quiz show, and like I said at the top, we have a form out there, and we're going to play this quiz show. It's going to be really fun, but we need the patrons to help come up with all the questions. It's going to be quiz like fantasy hockey questions. Me versus Ryan, Cupful Ultimate Champion, versus whoever wins the KKPP. And so yeah, please go fill out that form and like submit a couple fun questions, and also tag me with any ideas of a show you want me to do over the next few weeks without Brian. I'm up to talk about anything fantasy. You know me. I love talking about this stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna go through a few, and then like I don't think we need to pause at each one because it's been a long episode. Someone asked like, let the 3rd seed choose their opponent. We can't do that.
I'd love that. Like again, that's kind of like if Kevin wants to help coordinate that, I wouldn't say no, because I think it's a
first
great...
and 2nd seed have a bye.
First, yeah. So well, then it could be in the semifinals. It could be then the first and second seed could choose who their opponents like every round. That's a great. I love that mechanism. I think the NHL should do that, but it would just be a lot of work to manage. Imagine like 40 divisions, and for each one, we need to keep. We need to be asking people. And what if some people respond and don't respond? That's the thing with all this stuff. It's like some people don't respond. If everyone that I messaged responded to me immediately, like that would be great. Or within a 24, I don't even need immediately, or within 24 hours. But there's all if you send out like 100 messages that you need a response to, like there's going to be a couple people who just never get back to you, and then it just like makes these things really challenging.
Yeah. Lower the teams to. We had someone suggest taking the number of teams in division to down from 14 to 12 because the waiver wire is awful, and we had another suggestion to make it 16 teams, but with 8 playoff spots and no buys. And that was actually one attempt at solving our pyramid. Our too tall pyramid problem, because you'd have fewer divisions if you added 2 teams to each division.
All I could say is like when I was playing last season, I always had so many people on my watch list that I wished I could add, but I always like couldn't decide who I could drop to make those ads. So maybe that's just me like being too like in the weeds with this stuff, but I feel like the free agent pool wasn't awful with 14 teams. Maybe with 16 teams it would be, but like I think like there was a lot of good players that I always was like there would always be like someone added that'd be like, oh, that person, I was waiting to add that person, I was just waiting for an injury. But
it was very rare that guy actually ever really panned at it, but I wanted to be the one to take the shot. As part of that and a few other pieces of feedback, we had reducing bench spots, reducing IR spots. That's not going to happen. Sorry, I think that's like a non-starter. We're always gonna max out.
Why do people want us to reduce the IR spots? What was the argument for that?
I didn't really see. I saw no rationale for reducing IR spots.
I feel like it sucks so much to have an injury. It's like, why also extra punish the person by making them play shorthanded or have to drop a good player?
And 4 wasn't even enough for me at times last year.
Yeah. I mean, and on Fantrax, you can set it up in a way, which I've proposed in some leagues I'm in, and people for some reason like don't want to do it. And I don't get why. But like on Fantrax, you can make it that you can't add, because I think the one reason for not wanting to have lots of IR spots is because people could stash injured players to like, save for later. Like, let's say it's just I'm at the end of the week, I have a move left over. Let me find some random injured person I could add since I have an open spot. Fantrax actually has the ability to not let you add injured players. So if we had that, then it could be like unlimited IR spots, right? Where just if you have someone injured, you stash them, but then as soon as they're back, you have to. That's another thing Fantrax lets you do is like, right now in KKUPFL, if you have on Yahoo, if you have someone injured and then they like lose their eligibility, you can still leave them in your IR forever. You're just not allowed to make ads, but you can still keep playing. So you can sort of just like wait, bide your time. But if you had a situation where you don't allow people to stash people who are already injured, and then you force people to like remove injured players from their IR, like within like, let's say 24 hours of when they're healthy, then I'd be like, have unlimited IR spots. Because why should I get punished if one of my players gets injured? It's bad enough that I have to find a replacement and waste a move.
Okay, but none of that is relevant because we're not on Fantrax.
Yes,
it's a great feature.
So I wouldn't decrease the number of IR spots. I do think the number of util spots. Did you say that, or bench spots?
People were suggesting fewer bench and IR spots. It's come up a couple times. Like, especially honestly, if we make tier 1 bigger, I would be open to cutting. Although, like, I
want tier 1 to be deeper. I think it would be fun. I think bench is fun. I think like the suggestion that I think Mason even made in this chat today was like, maybe that's like we have 2 util spots as we were talking about before, so we make it that you don't. What do we do with it
instead?
Like maybe just turn them into bench spots, right? Or
I don't know.
Or maybe make them left wing. Maybe like have it, just like make it so that position eligibility is right now. We make it like you said, that
a little more.
Like we make it right now not matter that much. Like obviously you need to have enough centers to fill the 2 center spots, but like you don't have to worry too much about like I need to have like at least 3 left wings and 3 of everything, because you could fit people into your util.
Maybe we move our utils to become a left wing and a right wing and turn a bench into a util.
Maybe. Someone give us a proposal if we wanted to keep the roster size the same. But yeah, something to think about.
I don't like just taking out a util and turning it into a bench, just because like there's enough nights where it's these coin flip decisions that you live and die by, and that you feel so much I don't know.
I
what
hate
the word
sit
is.
start decisions, by the way.
Yeah,
They're so
it's
annoying.
sit start. I don't want to add a sit start decision to my roster.
I wish that there was a way to just make it that like on a busy night, just Yahoo will just, like just play all my players and then just the top choices are the ones that retroactively are the ones that got played. Like I feel like I made the smart choice to like have this good player on my team. Now I just happen to have to put someone on the bench and I lose a hat trick because I had
Hey,
that person on the bench.
I think I've made the case before that there should be 0 bench spots and like everyone on your roster is always active.
Yeah. So if we do that, then there's no like matchup maximizer podcast, right? Then like the schedule doesn't matter. And like
Well, there
getting
might
guys on
be.
off
It
days.
just wouldn't apply to the cupful.
It would, or it would be like just who has like 4 games this week versus 3 games this week, but the
Yeah.
days of the week wouldn't matter, which could be interesting. But it just seems so standard to have bench
Someone
spots.
made
I
a
just feel
case
like
to avoid to like when I was pitching that, someone convinced me that it was a bad idea. I can't remember why. Or who.
well, I think also there's just the idea that like I don't want the cupful to be like such a weird league, like so different than standard
I think that's
leagues.
what you said. I think I think
Like
it was
every
you.
league has bench spots, and we'll be like, we're the one crazy league that does.
Well,
We already do enough
we
crazy
can
stuff.
turn our 4 benches to roster, and then we can add 2 more bench spots.
Well, sure, but then it's a deeper league.
Yeah. Okay. Someone mentioned that they don't like how the playoffs end before the end of the regular season, but we do this because things get silly in the last little
Yeah, just
bit.
this past year, so
It
many
was
players were
crazy.
getting benched.
Like, yeah, and now the genie's out of the bottle, right? Like this year, teams like really, really abused. Like they're resting their players with whatever. I can't even. There was a term that everyone was using.
Oh, like
Like,
non-injured designation or something like that.
yeah, it was so yeah. So I don't think we don't want to mess with that. So that's I think we're gonna keep doing that. So we had some feedback that like it stinks when managers go inactive. Elon and Kevin,
Oh, yeah.
you
Just
guys have been
wait.
hard at work on first identifying inactive managers quicker and replacing them obviously quicker.
I could
As
give
a
you the
result,
quick like 1-minute synopsis of what we have in mind.
You've got before you do, I just want to say like that's always been our goal in the cupful. I think we've done a pretty good job on the whole. We know that like there's always a moment or two in the season where we can't keep up or like, the commission team just can't. We're not totally able to stay 100% on top, but still the league is widely active. But we still want to like iron it out and do better.
Yeah,
So
no inactive teams.
Elon, 60 seconds. What's the plan? How are we going to do better this year?
I could have had 2 minutes if you didn't. Get that.
I was giving the context.
I know. Okay, this is always like my main goal is like how can we like reduce inactive teams? So if you recall, people who played last year in the past couple of years, Kevin invented the roster bot where it can now determine if someone had a player on their bench when they could have fit them in their lineup that day, because that's a way to tell that someone's not setting their lines and being inactive. So we're going to combine roster bot to automatically tag people as inactive, and they're going to be added to a special inactive channel. This isn't fully fleshed out yet, but the general idea, and Kevin's a brilliant genius for having this idea, and like I think we're going to be able to actually implement this, where then we're going to have like an auto tag with the people with that label of like you've been tagged as inactive, where the person will have to respond as like no sorry, I just like, because it's fine if you made a mistake, no big deal. But then if you get tagged as like someone who's inactive and then you're not responding to click the button to say my bad, but if you like then get tagged and you don't respond at all within a certain number of days, then you will be removed from the league. So no one's going to get removed like automatically. You're going to get tagged. It's going to be very important that you like get your notifications on Discord so you don't miss these tags. But that's the general idea of how we're going to try to set it up so that we're going to be able to identify when people have like stopped managing their teams, and then we'll be able to quickly like, remove, like, we're going to try to reach out to them by tagging them. And if they don't respond after a certain number of days, then we're going to have a wait list of teams, and we'll be able to quickly replace that person so that no one's going to have to deal with people in their league going inactive.
Yeah, and like maybe this is scary and maybe some people won't be able to keep up, but I think if we want to keep scaling and like, have like the size of league we have and still be successful, it's probably going to be.
We don't ask much, right? We're not saying you have to like make optimal decisions every day. Like we're literally just saying set your like Yahoo has a button where you could set your lineup.
Set your lineups, keep your IR like in reasonable shape on it. Like you go on vacation, whatever, like miss a few. It's okay. It's not a huge deal. Just like stay overall active, please.
Yeah. Don't like make it so that when we look at your team, you have like a whole bunch of, you have Crosby in your IR, even though he's been playing for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And you have like a bunch. Yeah. We all know what inactive teams are, and no one wants it.
All right. More 2-week playoffs. We can't do that. No reseeding in the playoffs. Like, I don't really see, like, I think, you know how you get reseeded in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
That
It's
is an
not like a
option on
straight
Yahoo.
bracket.
Yeah.
I
Why
don't
do people, what
see
was the reason? Did they
it
give a reason?
punishes the reason is the rationale offered in this piece of feedback was that it reseeding punishes those that make upset victories. The top seeds already get so many benefits, so adding another benefit is unnecessary. So I guess, like, if the 6 seed beats the 3 seed, then, if it weren't for reseeding, they'd face the 2 seed. But
Instead of the
with
1 seed.
reseeding, they get the 1 seed. And they
I
say,
don't
I
know.
think
I feel
someone
like
else said, I think it defeats the purpose of a bracket. I mean, the bracket is just like the visual,
Yeah,
right?
I guess my response would be that I want to give, I think, at least this is off the top of my head, right? So if people feel differently, I'd be open to discuss, but I feel like I want to give as many, rewards to the person who ranked higher in the regular season as possible, because playoff luck is so just like, you could have a lucky week and get an upset, so I feel like as much as we can to like give advantages to the teams that like grinded hard and like actually won your league in the regular season. Like, obviously that team still has to win their playoff matchups to win the thing, but I think it's reasonable that that team should get some advantages to reward them for their impressive regular season.
Yeah. So people are saying, like, the 1 seed already has a bye. They don't need another advantage. I don't see, like, I don't see it's like head to head 1 week, pretty random. I would say give them every
Yeah.
advantage that
I'd be
there is.
if a lot of people feel this way, I'd be open to discuss it, but that would,
Yeah.
I think reseeding makes sense to me anyway.
Okay, next, a record of awards or trophies.
We're working on
across
it.
the couple. We're working on it. Like record books, Hall of Fame. We have like a Google sheet we call it the Hall of Champions. We could do better, and we're going to try and do better. So thank you for the suggestion. Someone, and I don't know if we have a solution to this, Elon. Someone said, I don't like how many apps it takes to play in the league.
Okay,
right?
from
Because
now
you have to
on,
make
it's yeah.
you have to make a Patreon account, a Discord account, Fantrax account, Yahoo account.
But you could delete your Discord, or you could delete, your fan tracks after the slow draft. So the way we do it is we do the slow drafts on fan tracks.
Yeah, it's not maintaining it though. Like,
I know, sorry,
like
I'm just Brian. I just want people to know how it works.
Okay.
Again, just giving the context.
Yeah.
What we do is we do the slow drafts on fan tracks, and then we transfer the teams to Yahoo, because Yahoo doesn't have slow drafts. So we do the draft on fan tracks, then we transfer the teams over. So yeah, it is 4 apps you need. You can delete your fan tracks once the slow draft is over. But yeah, so that's just I don't think we're gonna be able to change that, because like you're gonna need this year more than ever, like I said before with the roster bot thing, Discord is gonna be essential. Like you can't play in Cupful if you're not gonna be on Discord, because we need to be able to communicate with people. In the past, I've just been like, I'll try emailing the person. If they don't respond to me, I'll try messaging on Facebook Messenger, and if not, I'll try like finding them on LinkedIn. And then if not, one person I even sent $1 on like PayPal to see if they would respond to that. Anyway, like
what happened?
Yeah, they ended up responding. But like we're not doing that anymore, because like Brian said, we need to scale. So it's just going to be like, in order to play in Couple, you're going to need to be on our Discord, and you're going to need to be able to see, not like immediately, but like if we tag you in a message, you're going to need to like get back to us. Like we're tagging for a reason, right? If we're like, hey, are you FYI, your draft starting soon, you haven't joined your league yet, you need to join it, we're going to need you to see that message within like 24 hours.
I also just want to say, like, it's not all about scaling for us. Like, yes, the league is growing and we want to be able to keep up, but we also like might have put like an unhealthy amount of time into this league at various times, and like we love it and we want it to exist and grow, and like, but our lives are changing too. So like we need it to be sustainable. Is what we're aiming.
And also
for
with Discord,
here.
we could have bots that kind of take care of some of this for us. So
someone.
And we're not going to spam you, by the way. Like we're only going to tag at channel or like at a person or message you if like we need you. Like it's like, hey, you're not setting your roster. Do you still want to play? Yes or no? Like no hard feelings either way, but we need a response. And so like that kind of thing.
Some enterprising minds in the chat, Shams is saying time for me to get inactive to get a free buck. And Norm,
but this was like
damn, can I get $1 from Elon if I ghost you guys? But I want you to tell you, you'll get that $1. But what it will actually cost you is Elon's respect forever. Like there's no, you can have that $1, but you can never earn back.
I mean, I used to just feel so bad, like someone who like earned like a spot in like tier 2, and then it's like, and then they registered for Couple, and then I sent them their invite to join their league, and then like they just haven't joined the league, and it's like, I don't want to have to give away your team because you've earned tier 2. You've worked hard to get here. But like, if you don't respond to me to tell me why you haven't joined your league yet, what am I supposed to do? So then I put in a lot of effort to really try to reach out to find this person, so I wouldn't have to just give away their team and have them be so mad. Because I knew eventually you'd give away their team, and like the next day they'd be like, oh my God, what happened? I'm so sorry. I was on vacation. Oh, can I have my team? Blah, 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 blah. But anyways, yeah, moving forward, we're gonna have to just give away that team, as sad as it is. Anyway, Brian, anything else you got for us? It's been a long
Sorry,
show.
I lost my mute button.
That's okay.
So I've got it back. Okay.
Welcome back.
Yeah, someone said like Discord's too deep. Like we're gonna try and do better also at keeping it like clean and understandable. There is a bit of there is a learning curve. It's worth it.
But I will say for KKUPFL, all you need to do to play in KKUPFL is you're gonna have a league chat on Discord. So you could like, that's not even mandatory, right? So, but like, you probably want to be active in your league chat, right? And just chat with, talk about, it's fun being in a league chat. You'll have that. And then like, we just need you to be able to get tagged, respond when you're tagged on something. When you're so it's like everything else on our Discord is for fun for the community, and we'll try to make it as good as possible, not even for the couple, just to make the community better. And we have a team of people that are like awesome volunteers and people that are like, we call them the zebras. And we are like talking about how we can make our Discord an even better, more fun place to be. But yeah, for the couple, you don't need, nothing is mandatory except for responding when you're tagged in a message.
Yeah, and we'll still try and make it easier to navigate and understand. We always are. And thanks for trying, everybody. Someone mentioned there was, in my league, there was just a general a-hole throughout the season. And I understand they probably were not doing anything with malice, but their interactions with people felt harsh and a little too aggressive at times. I think most others in my div would feel the same way. Someone else wrote, I had a rooted and disrespectful manager in my league this season, was allowed to get away with saying a lot on Discord before mods intervened, definitely violated KKUPFL conduct, and was allowed to remain in the league, made me seriously consider leaving. So I'm very sorry to hear about both these things. We have already added a bot. Like when I saw this, like when I was first looking, we've added a bot to the server. So to make it easier to report stuff to us as you see it. Cause like if you see anybody breaking, like making you feel uncomfortable or breaking our server rules, like we need to know.
We'll look into it and we'll try to make it right. Like right away. Just tell us.
Yeah. We just need, So thank you for telling us there. And, like also like we've made it easier. We've tried to make it easier because, it used to be to tag Zebra or like DM, and like we try and have eyes everywhere, but we like, there's a lot of volume sometimes. We have eyes on all, like there might be some corners on some days where we can't see, and we do rely on reports to know what's going on. So please report. You don't have to feel bad. It's anonymous. It's secret. No one's going to get mad at you. We really
so to be clear, the bot will be if you want to do an anonymous reporting, but also you could just like message me or Brian, or we have a tag at KKUPFL to just then Brian, myself, and Kevin will see it. So you have lots of ways. But yeah, if you're uncomfortable or if someone is hurting your experience in any way, we'd love to know, because we don't want you to not come back. We don't want to lose 14 people just so that we can like keep one jerk person.
Yes, exactly. You know what, Elon, there is some other like little pieces about, like, we have some ideas, a lot of ideas around like community engagement and like building the social and community experience in statistical. We had this great suggestion about building vertical chats, quote unquote, vertical chat rooms where you can interact with people who aren't in your league, who aren't in your division, but also you can interact in a place where people in your division won't see. So if you want to talk strategy with other managers from like around your skill level or your draft spot or whatever, we're going to have these other places, because sometimes the people in your own division aren't wanting to be so chatty for strategic or otherwise reasons. And you don't want to bring your question to the whole server because your opponent might see it. So we're going to carve out these spaces where we hope that there will be a greater social opportunity for you and greater strategic opportunity for you too. So more on, I don't want to get too deep into it because we've been going a long time.
Well, I'll just say the thing, because I think it was a cool idea that people might want to hear.
Okay.
But one idea that we had was like, we could do it based on your draft positions. We'll just like all the people who drafted first overall, up to 14th overall, like one division, one chat for each of those. So like guaranteed, it's not going to be someone in your league seeing your question, because obviously you're the only person, like, anyway, so because it'll only be all the people who had pick 4. So you're the only person that had pick 4 in your league. So that'll be a fun way that we can just split up 14 chats where you chat with people that are guaranteed not in your league. And yeah, so like Brian said, then you could ask questions and guarantee that people in your league aren't seeing your question and the answers. So that's something we're considering for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's going to happen. It's just, yeah, we'll share more about that. Also, shout out to Alex and Norm who ran the Cupful Madness bracket. We had a lot of really positive feedback on that. If you don't know, it was a extracurricular sort of Cupful opportunity where we were in a bracket, you're a Cupful team, in a bracket against teams from other divisions, and like you could progress through to the end. And it was like this using your Cupful team to compete in another way outside your division. Alex and Norm knocked it out of the park in creating and running it, and we'd like to do more of those too. So shout out there. Someone said, I really appreciate how people go out of their way to help or provide information, which is really nice. We had an idea like to pair people to have like a buddy or mentor system, which is a great idea. We've heard of it before. We want to do it. Yeah, we had a lot of really fantastic feedback socially. Like I don't want to get and all over. I think I'm at the point, Elon.
Brian has a lot of trouble not like giving every single person their credit.
Well, what I'm saying here is with all that trouble I have, I might be at my limit. I'm going to be very honest and transparent. I might be at my limit for tonight for how much for podcasting.
I think it's been a great show. And
okay.
I thank you, Brian, so much for compiling all the feedback. And thanks again to everyone who gave us your feedback. And just because it wasn't read, if something wasn't read on the show tonight, Brian and I are still going to go over everything and consider everything along with Kevin. So yeah, this has been a blast. Thanks everyone for listening. Brian, is there anything more you want to say, or you're at the limit?
Thank you everybody for like participating in the Cupful and supporting us, and for your feedback. Like this is how the Cupful stays the best and most fun and competitive league. And I think like I one thing I'm like all the rules tweaks, I think we like are exciting, and like I love like Derek, thanks again. I love using data for it, but I think maybe burying the lead a little bit and just saying in the last 5 minutes of a 2.5 hour episode, like I think our goal is to like enhance the social experience this year is a big goal. So we're working on it, and I'm excited for what we might be able to do this year or even beyond if we can't get it all set up for this year.
We're going to do what we can, and also have fewer inactive teams, which I know Brian always points out is not that many even in the first place. But yeah,
very few out of a league of 600 people. Elon,
one is too many. There should be 0 inactive teams.
So many people say that in so many contexts that are so serious, and I know this is the one in which you mean it the most.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to solve it this year. But okay, thanks everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Obviously, like a bit of a non-standard Keeping Karlsson episode. But we got a lot of fun feedback, and it's fun talking league designs. Hopefully people even who aren't going to be playing in the Cupful, whatever, just hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. I'd love to hear feedback. This is summer content right here. Obviously the podcast itself, we've got a lot of fun things coming up, right? The playoffs are going to be over soon, which means we're soon going to have the draft, like free agency. So we're going to put some episodes together about all of that. We're gonna have that quiz show that Andy is hosting. That's going to be a lot of fun, and any other fun ideas people come at us with. And before we know it, we're going to be previewing next season. We're going to get everyone their championship wins in fantasy. I'm so excited to start playing again, but we have some time before that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to become a patron of Keeping Karlsson, keepingkarlsson.com/patron, and you can see on there all the list of all the perks you'll get for just that $5 a month. Buy us a cup of coffee or buy us a beer. Brian and I will decide who gets that beer each month. But yeah, Brian, I guess with that, let's cue the outro music. And why don't you go ahead and read us the credits and take us out of here? I guess the credits are pretty sparse this time.
Yeah, I'm just going to get with this episode was, presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons. Oh, I should probably, okay. You know what? Let me try and do this the right way. Hang on. Let me pull up my list. I didn't have it ready. I didn't think I'd be using it. Ooh, I saw this has to get posted too. I am like, whew.
Thanks for the people saying that it was a good night, good episode. Angie, Norm, Mason, so nice of you.
And thank you for being in the chat.
Or not. But yeah,
it's a great group. Great. And it was real. Like I like having the instant feedback on the feedback a lot. Okay. This episode of Keeping Karlsson. Oh, you're saying it's pretty sparse. Yeah, Elon, it is, but I'm still going to do my spiel. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dabra Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our super supporters, Ricard, Rob, David, Derek, Tom, Zachary, Andrea, Ivan, Aaron, and of course, Patty. Thank you all for your super support. Thanks, everyone, for your support. You're also great. Thank you, Kevin Hebert, our Kakupful coordinator, who we are game planning for Kakupful Season 9 with. And of course, Derek Dodgson for coming on the show and sharing his dad, doing the research and then coming on to share. Like, he put in work, everybody, and we really appreciate it. GameDayTweets.com if you want to keep up with all that's going on in NHL news, the best place to go. Logos by BrandonWeave.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from, we did some research at the start. Dabber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cat Friendly, The Athletic, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz. I legit used each one of those sources in our very short player discussions. So thanks to them. Thanks to you for listening. That's the list, Elon.
All right. Well, great job as always, Brian. Looking forward to the next episode of Keeping Karlsson, which will be our quiz spectacular extraordinaire, our quiz extraordinaire show. We'll come up with a name for it. But that's going to be a lot of fun. Until then, Brian, what should people do as they enjoy the end of the fantasy playoffs? Probably the next time we talk to people, we're going to have a cup champion. It's probably going to be the Vegas Golden Knights, but you never know.
Yeah, well, regardless of who it is, keep doing what you can to make sure that fantasy hockey, when you're planning your leagues and building your leagues, make sure you're doing it so that fantasy hockey can be for everyone.
Cool. Great job. Thanks again, chat. You guys are the best. Brian's very tired, so
I'm so tired and I have more to do. Sorry, that's not I just like it hit me.
You worked.
You
nailed it though. This
I
is
went
a great
from
episode,
zero
Brian.
podcasting to
the biggest podcast.
It was fun. I had a good time. I was having so much
again.
fun. I didn't realize
how late it is.
Yeah.
All right, let's say goodbye then. See ya. Thanks again, Derek, if you're still here. Bye.
Bye, friends. Thank you.